Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sprawl here on the Shadowcasters Network. How is everybody?
Woo.
Oh, so stressed.
If you can't see, I am literally just vibrating with excitement right now. I cannot control myself.
Spade, you're not supposed to tell the audience that.
Hey man, I keep it 100. I am carking it here at the moment, but it's fine. It's exciting.
I'm happy to be here and totally cool.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we're all looking fabulous and sick, and this overlay is great, and these players are great, and I can't wait to introduce everybody. So first off, I'm Oz. I am the game master. They call it the Master of Ceremonies in this system, which is a powered by the Apocalypse system called the Sprawl. That is set in a cyberpunk universe that we create. So we will be world building this session. We will not actually be playing anything, but that just means that if you're here in chat right now, you get to help us create the world that we're going to play in. We have absolutely zero idea what we're doing yet. But once we know, once we know, it's going to be cool.
How do we entertain?
How do?
Entertaining is usually just a lot of like, just smile directly into the camera, and then
you.
Well, that's how I get the camera to focus. So, like,
Yeah, you have such a winning smile, Miss Fortune.
Yeah,
like,
the thumbs up is a good.
Just a neon little grin appears.
Yeah, get some like LED changing face mask.
That would be sick.
Nice.
That
That'd
would
be
be
sick.
sick.
Actually, have
I'm
my
sure they're out there.
skull face mask in case.
Yeah,
But
like that KVA. Is it KVA? KZA video?
KDA, yeah, no,
KDA.
that is I will take neon paint to it. Do not tempt me.
Everybody just told me
I
I'd
will
attract too much
admit.
attention, so wow.
I will do it. Do not tempt me.
Well, anywho, so that's me. That's what I do. You might also recognize me from Join the Anarchy here also on the Shadowcasters Network, where we play the Shadowrun Anarchy system, and we play that totally improvised with chat. And then I also do a bunch of other things, which we'll plug or find out about probably near the end, because I want to just get into the world building. We have a lot that we want to cover and get as much, as much meat on these bones as we can, because right now there is no meat. There's nothing. So I'll go ahead and just... So I'm going to go ahead and just start introing this way and just kind of go in. So starting with Palmer. Who you is? What you do?
Hi. I am Palmer, and I guess you'd call me the producer of the Shadowrun In-Character podcast, Radio Free Detroit, starring Ziggy the Troll. So I do the writing and the editing and the logistics side of all of that for all the different shows that we're doing. I just don't do any of the voices.
Excellent. Allison.
Oh, hey, gosh, that's me. Hi, I'm Allison. I'm new to the whole network, but I am an independent streamer, content creator, gal, mostly focusing on film and stuff right now. But yeah, that's what I do. That's why my camera is so nice. I'm borrowing it from my real profession, putting it on top of a microphone stand and saying, "You're my webcam now." Do it.
You are webcam now. Congratulations.
Promo.
Good job.
Next, Myson.
Hi, I am Misfortune or Myson, whichever you like. I'm relatively new to the Twitch streaming world. First debuted over on the Bubbernaut, where I GM'd Shadowrun Nothing Personal. We played 5e, switched to Anarchy. We finished that up after 12 episodes. It was a great time, and now I am here on the Shadowcasters Network for my first appearance. Woohoo!
Damn. Yeah, and we met at Gen Con, and that was our very first interaction, first time that I ever met him, and we played in that I was like, hey, let's just have an impromptu Anarchy game, and like I was like plugging it throughout the convention, and the very last day got like a table of 8 people, and I was like,
and I remember distinctly chasing you down throughout that whole convention, being like, hey, where's the game? How's the game? When's the game? When's the game?
I was like, I don't know. I was just gathering interest.
Oh, God.
But yeah, but no, it was
You're gonna do the
great.
same thing with 6e, I hope.
But aside from that, I have a Twitch channel. I sometimes do things. That's about it. I'm gonna do Shadowrun bunches at some point in the future. So
Nice.
let's keep an eye on that.
Nice. And finally, Nathan.
Hello, everybody. It's nice to meet you all. I am Nathan Blades. I don't have a streaming career yet, but you will usually hear me on the talent agency, the Shadowrun Anarchy Actual Play podcast, available on Podbean and iTunes. It is what I describe as queer cyberpunk voguing action. So that is...
Oh, hey! I happen to be all about
right.
those things.
I know, right? Yeah. So if that's your jam, absolutely go and check out my stuff. But yeah, hopefully I can bring some of that action today.
Yeah.
Teach me how to vogue, Nathan. I know nothing.
That's true.
No, it's all about BS and confidence.
Oh yeah. Okay, that I can do. That I can definitely do.
Speaking of BS and confidence, it's time to start our very first stream.
Yes.
All right. So, the Sprawl. All that we know right now is that we are creating a cyberpunk world. So, let me swap us over to this screen where we're going to, where we're going to go ahead and just start brainstorming stuff. What is it that we want to explore? What do we want to see in our cyberpunk world, etc.? And so I came up with a bunch of topics. We don't have to fill in all of them, but this is mainly just to like start our brain waves to start jogging around and doing what they need to do. So prior to us even going live, we've been talking and discussing, but I've always been like, wait, shush, let's not get too deep into it. But I do think that we had a couple of things that were 100% like, we want to see this, like, point blank, period. Number one that I know we want to see is we want to see where there is no like racism, sexism, genderism, like none of this, like basically everybody is accepted for how they were born.
It's just normal.
And
it's just every day.
Yeah,
And how they
it's
choose
just
to be.
like you're just you, and we're definitely going to see that. Like this comes into play a lot for me, but yeah, it's just like
And I don't know if that would extend to like for example, nationality, where we can like, so here's the thing, right? I would say that no, I wouldn't judge somebody based off of their nationality, but I wonder if there's ever going to be an instance where like our Sprawl has tensions with another Sprawl, and then by you being part of that Sprawl, like there's automatically some kind of prejudice, but it's not it's about the location that you're in and like who you're like maybe supporting politically or something that might
It's an allegiance thing rather than something that's part of your being. So that's different.
Exactly.
I get you.
Sprawl sports.
Yeah,
everybody.
the way that I
the
way that I
it's
did.
American sports. I'm not joking.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it, actually.
There you go, American sports. See, I was going to go with a very obscure video game reference of a PlayStation Vita game called Freedom Wars.
Oh, sure.
And
I
that-
played it.
It's like Vita. Oh god.
Oh, thank goodness. But the whole setup of that game is the world has just run out of resources. They're just all out. They're so scarce. And now, if you are just using resources and you aren't being useful, you're a criminal. You're just sentenced for life. And how do you make yourself useful? You gotta work your time off. You gotta work your years off by killing giant robot monsters.
Yeah,
Sounds
I think
fun.
you start with a 1 million year sentence and then you play the game to reduce your sentence. It's a weird conceit, but neat. It's a cool game.
But in that game, you choose your panopticon, which is basically like countries, and these are like countries like fighting over each other to get these last resources that are left. And only like the rich, the powerful, the useful, the engineers, the scientists, only they have that.
Okay.
It's neat.
Okay. Cool. Let's hold that thought. Because yes, that could be a fun thing to toss in. So first thing I wanted to put who you were born as is accepted.
Oh.
And then I know another thing that we also mentioned that we wanted is we wanted high fashion glam, like cyberpunk, where style is incredibly important. Expressing your individuality is incredibly important. You are either super perfectly well-tailored individuals, think like the John Wick franchise,
Oh yeah.
right? Like even that underworld, like that underworld is very Italian suit. Versus like tracksuit.
Dressed.
They're not tracksuit mob; they're Italian suit mob. So definitely,
Truth.
right. And then, but then if you're on the other side of the spectrum where you are not affluent in some way, then you are creating your own fashions and you're like just out of whatever you can find. So, so a fashion conscious world is, I think.
Yeah, Serving looks in and out of character, darling.
Serving Luke's.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad I was reading that the right way because my brain always said it that way, and I'm like, this has to be wrong. Nope.
Aside from that, I think those were like the two. We accept this as fact. Period. The rest is going to be up to us. So, for example, how do we feel about what Myson said about a resource, like where people are, where the resources are super scarce?
So there's two possibilities with this in my brain. There is either an actual scarcity of resources, or we're playing in a mega corporate playground. There could just be the corporates like, hey, resources are scarce. No, they're actually not. We're just using them.
They're actually not.
We have all of them, right?
Yeah.
We're
These
using
are
all of the
ours.
resources.
We are creating scarcity.
In fact, that could be like one of the big mega that they just scarcity. Like they're in charge of agriculture, but somehow they just keep saying, "Hey, there's just not enough. We gotta jack the prices up."
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting balance of the two ideas. A lot of the cyberpunk I tend to interact with is actually kind of like utopian post-scarcity bits and pieces. So it'd be interesting to handle like the other side of the thing, but without it necessarily being like Mad Maxy of like, oh, there's like nothing left.
We live in a lavish sprawl, but there's at least one corporation that is like, oh, we just can't do this. Oh, these poor corporate citizens. Oh, we can't help them. Oh.
Because if it was a utilitarian scarcity, that would kind of clash with the fashion-conscious side of things. Everybody would have to be forced to be more practical than that.
Yeah.
So
the rich are it's like kind of a leveled city type of thing. Like the lavish are just like, well, at least I'm not down there.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So we have a resource hogging, basically. It's not just necessarily scarcity, it's just lavish hogging of resources.
So just up in the high class pretty much can access it, and everyone else we just get like the scrap.
Exactly. Okay. So I like that. Any other things people want to explore? I know I'm like, ask a question and then just go ahead and ramble. Nathan, your character has you're as the pusher. So one of the things to note is in the Sprawl. So let me take it back even further. We create the world first, and then we create our characters. But we decided that we wanted to spend more of our time focusing on the world building with chat, and then so we built our characters prior, and we left a couple of blanks open for after we do our world building. So I was
gonna say, why don't we get on with our molds?
Yeah.
So what I was saying was Nathan's character, the pusher. I know that you have one of the strengths of your character is that you have a following. You have people that you influence or that you've helped and that are basically have your back, and those are androids. Or are they bioroids? Like, what are you envisioning in terms of that?
So, I think we'll get into a little bit about it once we actually start designing corps and things like that. But the idea that I had was essentially exploring the idea of humans as resource versus synthetics as resource. the idea that once we get into a realm where building service industry robots is better than what we can do now, that, oh yeah, we need to build them as close as we can to people because they're better at doing jobs. But if you're going to start building people, how are you going to treat them on their day-to-day? Do they get workers' rights? Do they get like humanoid rights? So my character's like thing is finding indentured AI and essentially giving them entirely new identities by building them new bodies and stuff like that to their specifications. So exploring that idea of kind of like, oh yes, we've got human rights sorted, but now we're just kind of like oppressing humans 2.0 because that's now fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm also
Spit.
super down with this idea of just there being kind of these synth folks.
Hey, did you look through my notes? Because I was on that same darn wavelength.
I haven't
like
touched your notes, but mostly because we're going to be going through this, so I figured that would all come to light as we go through this.
Let me pull up my own small note doc. I literally just it
I
was literally just
just
from Cyberware and one location.
So when you're thinking, the androids that you're thinking in your head, are you thinking more mechanical looking or more like Detroit Become Human, bio, like they look very similar? Or are we thinking like both?
A little bit of both. I think I don't really want to go down like the replicant angle because then it's not really a metaphor anymore if they are just humans, right? So the way that we kind of treat, like, you've heard of like Pepper? It's one of the service industry robots that show up in like a lot of Japanese banks and stuff. And she's adorable. She's like 4 foot high and looks human, but in a very toy, cartoony kind of way. But because she doesn't look human, kicking one over is still like okay to some people, and that like hurts me personally. I know, right? So it's like that kind of thing where it's like, oh yes, they're ostensibly like humanoid in that we can identify with them and maybe read facial expressions, but they're not so human that I want to treat one like a person, said the asshole whose ass I will kick.
Gotcha.
Oh, and I will if you want me to, I will also
oh sweet, we'll definitely explore that. Yes.
Yeah, so
I've got the means to make this happen.
Nathan, can I spring off your idea? Like, can I just off the springboard? So, one of the ideas I was going on that's in that same ballpark you're talking about is instead of just having robots that look and appear human, the route I went down was like, what if you could just improve yourself by like uploading your consciousness into something that's just perfected?
Oh, the singularity. Okay.
So like, we care about fashion, right? We care about how we look, and it's important to us. So what if like your body is like just born a certain way, of course, but you just want to look better. You want to look perfect. You want to just fit in that suit like a glove. So you could jump in this like vat can thing, or just tube or whatever. You upload your consciousness to just this robot that's just been perfectly sculpted, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go like with a partial bioroid angle. I like your sort of replicant angle you're talking about, but
I mean, I'm trying to avoid replicants as a thing of looking exactly like. Although bringing up like the transhumanism and the singularity is really interesting, because talk about kind of like real science stuff for a second. Even though in the realm of sci-fi we do a lot of kind of talking about our brains as if they were computers. Sorry if I'm just lagging out just a sec. Apologies. Hi, sorry.
No worries.
Apologies if that happens every so often. I'm from the UK, lads.
Tell the Queen of England to get her internet together.
I know. Right, so
that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Sorry to reiterate that thought. So in the real world, like, neuroscientists are really annoyed about the metaphor as brains as computers because they don't work like that at all. They're incompatible, essentially. So a lot of the kind of ideas of brains being moved into digital consciousnesses is super fantastical, but also kind of real feeling. But that's a really interesting thing to explore, because if that technology isn't perfect, then there's a whole bunch of people who are like, yeah, I want a perfect robot body. And then they go and remove their brain and digitize it, and that doesn't go well for anybody involved.
And then as many corporate scandals happen, things go wrong.
I'm sure there are definitely people in this kind of slightly fashion obsessed future that we're exploring that are like, oh yes, the ultimate fashion is to not have a body at all, and they make some sacrifices to go do that in many senses of the word. And I'm cool to explore that. That seems fun.
Just even bouncing off of that, like going back to fashion, there's totally fashion cyberware. Based
Oh,
on
absolutely.
these bodies, and that's something I explored a little bit with kind of the little tidbits of my character, like fleshing out who made what part of her body, and just getting that aesthetic from that. I'm honestly really excited to talk about that a little bit, but yes.
Yeah. So let's
I'm
actually
sure we'll get to this sexy cyberware. Right. Sorry.
So let's talk about this concept, and like, if this is true, then what else is true, right? So for example, I know if we have right now these androids that are not human looking whatsoever, that everybody is totally cool with mistreating, cow tipping, etc., and then you have basically the super wealthy in a kind of altered carbon-esque way, right? Where they are transferring their consciousness from one body to another, potentially losing bits of themselves in the process, just to be like absolutely perfect, right? It means that you have a lot of rich and powerful people leaving things behind while progressing into perfect bodies. And then the perfect bodies, if those are not bioroid androids, right, but these are more like just other people that you can swap into. The first thing when I was thinking about that, I'm like, oh, so then there's probably a human smuggling,
Trafficking,
human trafficking of attractive
like they steal
people.
the bioroids, like they steal the bioroids.
Yeah, like it's frickin' snatchers, dude. It's frickin' snatchers.
And if you're born attractive, if you grow up attractive, you can be immortalized almost. Like you can be purchased basically by a corporation and say, like at some point we will go ahead and utilize, like you could be utilized, and like you can go ahead and pass this money on to like your family or something. And
oh my god,
that's some get out nonsense. Oh my god.
That is so delightfully fucked up. And that gives me ideas for even my own character. Like, oh Jesus.
So this is one of those things, right? When we think of, here's a concept, let's ask after we're done kind of like mentioning it, okay, if this is true, what else is true? Because then you come up with the next fucked up thing. So
that is so fucked up.
Oh, we can curse on the stream. That's right. Okay. Shit.
Yes. Welcome to the Shadowcasters Network.
Woohoo! So to keep bouncing on that idea, and I really want to let bubbling in his but to finish this thought on another concept. So workers, right? They get dumped into these bodies because it's safe. If the android dies, the worker's safe. They can keep on going. They just upload themselves into another one. But what if there's like stuff in the brain hardwired that makes them think, like coming out of this is a bad idea, or this is just ultimately better. It's just that subtle bit of coding that's like nudging you in the direction of like, why jump out of this like fancy schmancy like handsome body that is like 10 times the strength of a human that does all of the regular work, when you can just look this fashionable, look this great, be this strong, be this awesome, and when you die you just upload yourselves into the next one. Like you just buy insurance for all that. It's just subtle coding in each body you're jumped into, even just as regular everyday citizens, and you like come sit in this big lab, this big warehouse full of vats. Come in here, come work in here, come stay here. Nothing will go wrong. And what if the consciousness sometimes just doesn't leave the body if they die? As another idea. Body dies, but consciousness, like the actual real body dies, but
oh, hold on one second. If you can hear me, sorry. I will fix this very shortly.
Oh,
there we go.
He's coming back.
Sorry.
Hi.
There. I got disconnected.
The queen heard you were talking shit.
Yeah, that's what I get. Yeah. Damn you, Queen of England.
So,
oh my god, that's beautiful.
This is why you don't fuck with the queen, man. All right. So
Yeah,
Yeah, don't do it.
Wait.
Don't do it. So that's just the end of my rambling. So I don't know if you guys want to take it from there.
what was the Cliff Notes version of that?
Okay, two things. One, if you're a worker and you put yourself in a robot, the robot brain in it or coding is like, hey, it's better to be in this robot than in your human body. Keep doing it.
Mhm.
Second thing is, as one of the scandals, if your body dies, supposedly, or something goes wrong in the physical world, your consciousness stays trapped in a robot, and you might not even know it. You don't know what your real body might have. You may not even known you had a real body anymore. It's like you just forgot it existed. You just jump from
Sure.
robot to robot.
That you lose enough of your own kind of previous memories and identity that at this point you're just a person hopping machine rather than a full person
Now
anymore.
that's an interesting one.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
So
at
lose
that-
parts of
at
self
that
and your
point-
memory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of like delightfully gross things that we can explore in terms of every time somebody tries to hop bodies and it goes wrong. We get to then, explore what they lose and get really miserable about it. Hell yeah.
And I was just thinking about because I play a character with a lot of cyberware, and I'm thinking, what is the market potential then of cyberware in a world where you can just hop bodies? Well, if the body hopping is like, well, think about it this way. Corporation A is Body Hoppers. We'll just call them Body Hoppers Inc.
Yeah.
So we have Body Hoppers Inc. over here, and then we have multiple cyberware corporations, and it's just a big frickin' smear campaign both ways.
What if it's a regional thing? Like it's popular.
It's popular in our Sprawl.
Yeah.
Amongst the rich, for sure. I think that's popular amongst the rich.
That
And
is-
I mean, if you can't quite afford to get a new body, well, you can get a new arm at least.
Yeah.
yes,
Or-
I mean,
that's the
it's,
best way to.
uh,
That's the best way to put
Something
it.
Deals with these
Yeah.
bodies.
And
They're,
I'm just-
they're essentially different fashion subcultures, I think, because if we're kind of exploring the overlapping of the idea of fashion identities with corporate and trying to survive in this region, right? Well, if, for example, if now body hacking is now a form of fashion, that would therefore mean that there are two fashion houses or whatever specifically works in moving your brain into a body more beautiful, and others that work on like, you don't need to transfer your consciousness, just augment the flesh with meat, flesh with metal, and that's their aesthetic.
Yes.
And then there are other people that are kind of like, oh no, it's all about smart fabrics, leave the meat entirely alone, and just the shell it's cased in, make that fabulous. So I
like that. I like that a
different
lot.
corps having different perspectives on what counts as beauty. I think might be the way of having all of these different approaches to technology in the same setting.
Yeah, just don't make my poor cyberware obsolete. I need that.
It just means that you align with that fashion brand, baby.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's
Allie,
like my
Allie.
thing, or brand or brand.
Allie, I thought of a solution for your problem. See,
Yo,
some
hit
people
me.
might go to cyberware instead, because bodies are hackable. Like, and they can even be like influenced by the corpse. So like, what if you're this rich celebrity? Okay, you're over here, you're doing rich celebrity things, and you are the voice of like a generation out there. But some corporation is able to like code or hack into your body's like
That's evil.
stuff,
Love it.
and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna make him say this, or we're gonna make him support this idea."
Let's just put
And
this little
they'll fund
inkling
this
in your
thing.
head.
And the
Yeah.
public, who definitely goes with the cyberware, they know this shit happens. So they'll be like, "Nope, don't want that. I'll stay in my regular body. I'll just be
this
strong
is-
with the big metal."
Yes, this is mine, and I'm taking
Yeah, somebody
ownership
from
of this.
in chat, Miles of Miles 0123
That's
writes,
actually Miles
"What
of
about
Miles.
body theft? Someone's body is
There you go.
hijacked and stolen." So
Yeah.
Body theft. Oh, like I said earlier, snatchers. They're
That last bit ties in with something that I was interested in, and
Oh, hell yeah.
that's the in a world like that where the people with a lot of spotlight on them, you don't know if you can trust them at all, and yet they are still the people who are in the spotlight. What is the meaning of knowledge, and what is the meaning of history, and who's controlling those things?
That's where I come in.
ooh, okay, nice.
I love how we're creating just the most yikes environment we can.
I
That's
mean,
cyberpunk.
that's kind of that's the genre.
Cyberpunk
yeah.
is just yikes.
So here's a
Also-
question. I know that something that we had mentioned or had tossed around was the 1984 thing of that
having a
was one of the things that
panopticon.
just. I'm not familiar with this reference.
Oh, the panopticon is just the general term for like an overwatching body or entity
Like a big
for a
brother?
group of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like that, yeah.
So, yeah, when we're thinking about the meaning of history and trust and all that stuff, like if people are being hacked, I would actually even wonder, like, if the hacking of celebrities is a thing that the public is not aware of.
See, there's that, and then I'm thinking,
Like you have to be underground to know that. Like you had to have been in the business to break out and.
I mean, only folks in the shadows who might be doing illicit work for corporations against other corporations, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
And
yeah,
of
that
course,
was actually something. Yeah.
and of course, there's also the possibility of corporate sabotage, both interior and exterior. If you can pay people to hack someone to do a thing for you, that benefits your business.
Our hands are clean. We'll let that hacker hack his brains dead. Be honest.
Mega yikes. So I think we have some good topics here.
We have a shape.
We have a shape, right? So let's talk about what are some. Well, I guess we don't need to go about the inspiration of news, history, and fiction unless anybody has like a thing from somewhere that they want to incorporate, or just kind of to help shape these even further. No,
So this is where we're talking about our megacorps that we locked in our.
No,
level?
that would be that's next. That's next. That's down further down the line. I think.
I think in general, we can kind of just skip ahead, right? Because like would be badass, would make us angry, give us the creeps. Like, how do we feel about all of this general stuff kind of fitting into all of this? Would benefit society,
yeah.
would control society, would give us the creeps. I feel like in general, we did that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
some
No,
of these we
and
can
like
touch on.
my would make me angry is my idea for operation. So.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think what the only other things that I would like to add is in a society that exists like this, I think that having something like universal healthcare is for everybody. That just exists, but then you're not getting cyberware for that, but everybody's taken care of. It's great. Also, everybody's educated, but in the way that we
they
want
want.
them to be.
Yeah.
But so these are things which are obvious benefits for society because you have a more educated population, but not necessarily a more critical thinking one.
Handled.
I don't know how I feel about the healthcare though, because one of the things that the Sprawl, the system as a system, encourages is the idea that since you are all scum, in the eyes of
Absolutely.
you're all scum, you're all scum.
This
in
is the face
in
of
system.
scum.
Yeah,
The face of
you're-
scum is fucking beautiful, honey. Get used to it.
There's there are costs to the cyberware that you got. Like you had to screw someone over, or you scrimped and saved and it's defective, or you're owned by a corporation for wearing it. So, which we're going to get into later once we delve into like what makes each character tick in the world. But it's something to keep in mind is that if there was public healthcare, I don't know how that would reconcile with that idea, right?
Well,
A few
it's-
thoughts about healthcare stuff last night
get-
in relation to corporation
All
stuff.
right, what you got?
So without going into too much, but my corporation was like kind of the one medical provider in our sprawl, and yes, there's universal basic healthcare, but they kind of decide what falls under necessary.
So like actual
they-
insurance companies do right now, where nothing is
Oh
necessary.
man.
We have a lovely word for that in my community. Medical gate, bane of my fucking existence.
Medical gatekeeping.
Yes,
you
medical gatekeeping. Yes.
All right.
Oh man.
America is fucking wild.
Oh yeah, yeah. I live in a nation where if I go see the wrong doctor, I can say, hey, no, stop that. I won't let you do that. I won't give you that prescription. And it's like, hey, listen, I'm just trying to live over here, man. Like, what's your beef?
You got to be on the super platinum gold tier.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yum. Okay, so I love that because it's good. It's a good way of just expressing how corporations run everything and make the people less than. Yeah. But still provide you the healthcare and education that you so deserve. So let's I think in general this is fine. Let's go ahead and scroll down to our date and location, major historical events that led to this point. I know one of the things that we had mentioned was doing Miami as a location.
No, I made one joke about Hotline Miami, and I was like, hey, we do Miami.
Hey, let's just make it Miami. I live in Miami. Let's just do
Miami.
I do live in Miami.
I'm happy.
Miami would be fine. I think
I mean,
that would
I
be a really
tweeted
cool...
earlier that we're going to be doing a thing about Miami, remembering that we had the conversation before.
Yep.
So I guess we're locked in, lads.
Nathan made it canon.
Miami,
All right.
cool, baby.
So
I'm into more grungy city it is, but that works too.
Miami is a very gentrified, like lots of pockets of
Yeah, but that like fits our whole like we have this huge upper class that is swapping bodies all the time. That works for Miami.
Miami also has that image of just like polish and fashion and relaxation and luxury. Like it has that, but that's one side of Miami. Whereas like we have lots of our housing our costs are just through the roof, and like a lot of so like you have a lot of concentrated areas of crime basically around Miami and low just like communities that are falling apart.
Yeah.
In
and
those.
like that's yeah.
So
like it works as a location. Like we can take a lot of inspiration from the real place, and I'll probably be asking you like, "Hey, what's in this part of this? Where is this part of the city? Stuff like that."
Yeah,
and I don't know. I guess because I don't have the local insight for it, or my knowledge of most of America is through what I see through TV and movies. So Miami for me is just kind of like large beachside, like avenues with palm trees and like roller skating, bikini women, that kind of deal. They all have cool cyber legs now.
Which it is but like
yeah.
The geography of Miami is that the beach part is actually like its own long strip island off the coast. So you have to actually travel a bridge to get to South Beach. It's a long bridge. It's a causeway. Like it takes about 5 minutes without traffic to get to that section, and that's the section that you always see. On the other side, you'll have like downtown, Brickell. Those are also very high-end areas, right? But then right adjacent to Brickell, you have places like Overtown that are just like nobody wants to go there. Yeah, like. And then a lot of you have Coral Gables, which is like mansions and groves and stuff. But then other development, North Miami Beach. Well, that's above so that's still part of that strip. And then eventually that meets. So it's actually kind of like it's on its own island. It's kind of like you have the major landmass, and then it kind of like stems out.
Snakes off from it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that already sounds like a really interesting location to explore. So let's do it.
And like it is the fact that it is like already a darn near perfect cyberpunk dystopian fucking whole, I love it.
I like the idea that we're like
Your mic's cutting out a lot. I'm having a hard time understanding you.
What's up with that? So, like, the further north you get, it's like society is just pushed up that way almost.
Well, see, like with Miami, it's even more interesting because like they just kind of gentrify areas and then start expanding outward, and so you have like lots of affluent locations that are then surrounded by ghetto that are then surrounded,
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
suburbs that are then
a bit
like
of a similar situation to Chicago. Like it's
Yes.
just like we want like this is like and of course like naturally like welcome to cyberpunk. Government is even more corrupt than usual. Crazy. Like
What?
and now it's like the corporations are just like we want our people, our nice people in this area. So get out your house.
Nice.
Push.
So
Yeah.
actually, now another thing about the Sprawl to think about is usually what the Sprawl, the game, defines as a sprawl is not just a single city. It's usually encompassing like a whole shit ton more. So my question would be, do we want to move more upward, like towards Georgia and Alabama, or do we want to move more southward towards the Caribbean? So you have like Cuba, Haiti,
Because like
Dominican Republic,
on the one
Puerto
hand,
Rico.
Yeah, I'm digging one sprawl connected, like with interconnected artificial islands, which is why you run out of resources because you build too many artificial islands. And then like zeppelins or something connecting them, you know, just like.
I have a major soft spot for underwater arcologies, so like.
So do I.
Christ. I personally like the idea of going a little south and just it's a floating frickin' city. Oh my god. A floating sprawl, even better. Holy shit.
Yeah, interconnected. That's what I like so much. Did you see Oz in the chat? Salty and Chrome had a good suggestion, I thought, that a lot of the neighborhoods have literal walls.
Yep. Yeah, I dig that.
And then just kind of like the gentrification turning into make it into a corporate campus almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I like
trying to keep.
And I like also we were talking about floating islands versus artificial islands and ecologies. So like you have a lot of more of a it's a tropical paradise, quote unquote, but like you also get
It's a fucked up tropical paradise. I love it.
That's everybody living on interconnected oil rigs, essentially, is what it
Basically.
visually looks like in my head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they go out of their way to make it look like fancy, rich islands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go
Although,
way
actually,
out.
that's a really cool idea. Is that there are
Just
also
literally
probably
move the beach up
connected.
here.
There's also probably connected pockets to those islands that are like falling apart oil rigs and stuff like that. Like just like these floating masses of garbage that people live on.
Yeah, like, and that could easily be one of our bad neighborhoods. It was just a bunch of oil rigs that got left there, and now people have made it kind of into a little, just barely more than think like Mother Base from Metal Gear Solid 5. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's just
And this is like the
Oil
people who
rig
can't
where
afford
people
the
live.
nice suits. They can't afford the bodies they could jump into. They just get like dumped off there like a garbage dump.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
'cause-
ultimate recycling project.
Exactly.
Oh no! Oh.
Oh!
I mean, turning
We
literally
stuck in
corporate
there.
trash into a region to live and survive in because
I
resources
honestly
are quote
fucking
unquote
love
that
it.
scarce.
That
Yeah,
is
it's
just-
like a recycle island. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like it's just this, and I'm seeing it as kind of just this little haven of we're all like kind of the corporate rejects. Welcome to our fucking oil rig, folks.
Oh, if we don't, I mean, this campaign needs like a community of punk weirdos.
Oh, for sure.
by
Yeah, no,
default.
absolutely, and I was looking at a community of punk weirdos to kind of put my character just like this is where she's from, and she's extremely fucking proud of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like
And
these,
that's
these
one
are
thing
these
to
are her folks, you know, like these are her homies. And
One thing
she
to keep
loves
in mind for sure is like one of the appeals of living in cities nowadays, even if you can't afford it, is that you live in the city. You get to go and do the exciting city things that maybe you can afford, or you're putting yourself into debt to go ahead and do and live your, your quote unquote best life. When sure, you could be boring in the middle of like nowhere and live on a much lower budget and make it affordable, but instead you're over here getting high wages but then spending higher prices, and so it just kind of evens out. But look at you're cool, you're in the city. So
And I'm just like, I'm thinking of this as my like I grew up on a farm, and I'm just like, this is my exact mindset. Like, Oh, I live in the big
Yeah.
city now.
Another thing you got me thinking of with this oil rig idea is like, okay, so you can put your consciousness in a robot body that doesn't technically need to live in any. It doesn't need to have a house technically. You could just go by on like solar cells or something.
Sure.
So the workers, they go live on this like oil rig, and they don't even have proper housing there because they don't need it. They just like chill out anywhere there, and they're just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just. Oh god.
Another inspiration for me would be Kowloon Walled City. If you've ever seen any pictures of that.
Yes. Oh
so
my god.
So it's been torn down, but this was like a legit place. Like I first found about it through Shadowrun Hong Kong. I had no idea that this was an actual real place. But
like you thought Kowloon was like really bad. It's actually like that. It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. But I remember reading an article about like the sustained economy / like what they did to live in Kowloon, and like a lot of the people that did live in Kowloon, they were like, well, yeah, we were working for crime lords, and we were like, just doing whatever we can to scrape by. The place was like leaky and stuff, but man, we had some great food and great people, and like we had the sense of community because like nobody was paying attention to them, so they could just do whatever they wanted, and they created their own order.
And that is something also I wanted to, if I may just drop her name. This one, something I wanted to focus on with Angel is kind of her relationship to her community. Like I started even like thinking of who are her neighbors, because they are probably just as big a characters as she is.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, so definitely I could see us
frickin' oil rig township type thing, like fucking.
Yeah. So definitely that's one of my inspirations as well for the slum areas, I guess we want to call them, of these of
the
this
ghettos
place. So looking at the general gist of this, what would you say are some major historical events that led to this point? Could you think of any, like, does this need a major historical event? Is this like, for example, is this the natural progression of our life? Or like, if we don't stop on what we're doing right now, this is what's going to happen?
What if you had this corporation that just literally discovered immortality? Like the biggest headline in the world, we discovered immortality in the form of bionic bodies you could jump into.
This is...
so major historical event
shifted the entire world dynamic.
Yeah, like the whole hacking your brain revolution that got us to the point where we are with that, with cyberware, with all of that. Like,
I think I can agree on the idea that the transhumanist side of things is a recent discovery and has immediately been turned into a hot ticket fashion item rather than the thing to be scientifically explored sensibly.
Yes.
And so that explains
or philosophically.
Give me my cool cyber legs or I riot.
So instead of actually discovering immortality and actually trying to like push it to the next step, it's like, hey, we'll just take that trend you just kind of came up with and we'll just sell the crap out of it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like it's probably sold as immortality. It's all when the body that you're in gets old, take a new one. And there's a whole bunch of rich people out there who want to live forever who are like, yep, into it.
Is that old model
and then
out
they
of
do
style?
so.
Hey, get the next one.
And whether that goes well is like, because that then gives us the drama of having that technology be imperfect.
Yeah, and let's make sure that
it's never been perfected.
At least I'm not like these punks on the oil rig with their cyberware.
It's just sold. It's never been perfected, and it just trashes society as a result.
Oh, you poor amalgamations.
Palmer, what were you saying?
I was going to say, well, let's make sure we don't reimagine society based on this amazing thing. Let's just keep everything how it is and sell things.
Yeah, it's a consumer.
It's totally not going to change the socio-political climate of the world we live in. Nope, it's fine.
We could sell you the battery that never runs out of energy, but we're going to keep selling you the batteries that run out of energy so you can get the next one.
I like Soy Mage's suggestion in chat. The Island Replication Project, a decade-long project. I would probably say more than just a decade, but that saw the forced introduction of extra islands connecting Miami to the Caribbean.
I love it.
Space. Overpopulation? Like overpopulation ran out of space?
This
Gotta build more?
this is a overpopulation solution. This is a
I
convenient
wonder, though.
solution trying to get.
I do have
Caribbean
another idea as well. So.
I have an idea too, but I'll let you go first.
I was just going to say, if we're thinking about historical events, the whole middle of Florida is very low-lying.
That's where I was going to.
So it might not be there anymore.
That's what I was. Yeah, that was where I was going to go to, where it's.
So Miami might just be an island.
Miami just might. Yeah.
Florida just became an island. Maybe it just. No, that's getting into a cartoony territory where the state actually like pulled itself off like a puzzle piece and floated off. They seceded from the states.
Well, I mean, maybe that
because we are floating away.
I wonder if maybe something like that would have occurred, right? Where if the sea levels rose to a point where Miami, well, first off, if real estate or if development rather for Miami was okay, we need to pour on as much dirt as we can to keep like the city moving upward so that it can fight rising sea levels.
And that's like one of those things that people are worried about in like the slums, the oil rig communities. It's just like
what
is getting higher every fucking day. My house might be underwater soon.
So
what if that's why we need the bioroid, like the bioroids? They have to like go underwater and fix these things, and they have to try to keep the island stable, stuff like that.
Yeah. Why?
Major market for an industrial sort of island maintenance.
And it's safe. It can drown. It can be crushed or whatever by the water, fish or whatever, and you can just go in a new one if it fails.
Eaten by a shark and stuff.
So major rising sea levels led to the droids being created to be able to maintain the city existing, because Miami is still a hub. Like people didn't want to abandon it, and there's a lot of investment already in that city. So then, if this was like several hundred years further from that point, I wonder if there would be a point where they might be like, listen, we've been separate from the United States like for such a long time, we're just gonna like
we are our own thing.
Bye.
We're just gonna make a we're just gonna make a country, okay? We're just gonna be a country now.
Oh my god.
Where they might have seceded. I mean, then again, I don't know if there's necessarily a precedent for that, only because like, Alaska and Hawaii exist, but outside of
still, but I mean, California wants to be its own country. It depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah, and I wonder.
The apocalypse just always lets them do that.
Yeah, so I wonder if I don't know if there's necessarily a need for them to secede from the United States. So I guess like that's a good question. Like let's think outside of that sprawl. What would be a reason for them to secede, if at all, or do we just want to keep them within the United States?
See, I really don't see much of a reason, especially with like another sprawl almost being so close. Like Atlanta is a thing upstairs in Georgia, and I feel like that's going to also just blow the up.
And they might have just totally different sensibilities, really, because you have like Atlanta's not really under the same problems that the Miami sprawl is, for example, the Miami Caribbean sprawl. Which, by the way, what do we want to call this place? It's because now it doesn't feel right to call it the Miami Sprawl if we're going to have like a bunch of Caribbean islands attached to it,
I always mispronounce the word, but is it archipelago? Archipelago, thank you. Like the Miami archipelago, where they've kind of
archipelago sprawl.
Sprawl is maybe
I think maybe arc sprawl.
We put another S in there. We just put it the mat.
Arc
we call it the
sprawl.
mat.
I like arc sprawl. Arc sprawl.
Ooh.
Arc sprawl. I like that.
Arc sprawl. Yeah.
Short for archipelago.
Ooh,
and then what if everyone else starts doing it? They're going to become an arc sprawl. These guys are going to be arc sprawl. California.
I mean, enough of the kind of like major coastal cities probably do end up becoming smaller, like different sized arc sprawls depending on the resources they had when they got submerged. So this is turning into a very near automata kind of thing, and I'm into it.
Ooh, I'm always down for
this is the arc sprawl.
Somebody else in chat would be into that as well.
Yeah. And I also I'm not surprised that they call it the Miami Archipelago Sprawl rather than like any of the other islands, because Miami is the most affluent of all of them. And and like I mean, I hate to bring it up, but like with recent things that we've seen, for example, with Puerto Rico and Trump, I would not be surprised to have this colonialist mindset of like, okay, well, we're going to help all of you now because you're all, you're lesser than.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I can certainly see political.
Well,
anyway,
right. I mean, we can
I know,
like keeping
I know
it.
where your family is from, Oz. So,
well, we need to
Yeah.
answer. We need to answer two questions here.
Mhm.
What made fashion the biggest flipping thing in the whole darn world? Question one. And second thing, what made the resources a bit of a tough problem that kind of caused a bunch of splits and divides and trying to divvy it out?
I can answer that second question for you a little bit. Like, I feel like the whole like Florida being a fucking flooded mess now is what kind of it submerged a lot of viable land for whatever reason. So
Like
now
these
we're
big
having
superstorms have been hitting us, like big giant
we've
hurricanes all
been
over the place.
hurricanes, yeah.
and that's another thing, and that's something we need to consider. Like, how the hell does Sprawl deal with things like hurricane and shit?
Right.
Like, when
So-
hurricane season come around, what happened?
Right. So hurricane seasons, essentially, we have much stronger buildings. Our building codes are made to withstand hurricanes of about like there's 5 categories of hurricanes.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into category
3.
4 or 5, that's when things become a real problem. Like 3 will rip things that are loose around for sure, but 4s and 5s is where you start getting into like, oh, we need to evacuate.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely possible that hurricanes have come and gone, have wrecked the place, but then you have places that are just coded better than or like have better building codes that can withstand. Maybe the technology is made right where they can withstand those
You'd
hurricanes.
figure by this point, if they're hit by that many natural disasters, that they'd start to. In the same way that a lot of buildings in Japan are specifically to be earthquake proof, and they're good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was thinking,
and you also wonder with like, oh, sorry, Palmer. Would you like?
that's okay. No, it's just I was just thinking with that that accessibility of hurricane-proof buildings could also be wealth biased.
Yeah, that those especially, and I was gonna say the same thing. Like, there are certain structures that will not, and Soy Mage said in the chat, hurricane seasons are terrible in Miami. It's usually said if you're poor, just say goodbye. You're done.
Gun. You just gun. Then what about the rise in fashion? Start at that.
What?
Oh well, I mean, if you to turn the nature of public suffering into an art style, obviously, I mean, in the same
Art
way
is
that
suffering.
the art of suffering. Yes, indeed. After the many decades of incredibly terrible weather, in the same way that we turned hiking into a fashion, we absolutely turned wet weather gear into the neatest couture available. So there is a lot of kind of like high fashion, weather resistant, high fashion like submersible. There's a lot of kind of aquatic fashion stuff. Everything is waterproof, man. If you stand in like a category whatever hurricane and your eyeliner isn't on your face anymore, then you clearly didn't get it in Miami, because this shit stays.
Yeah. Yes, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, but I think
It passes
also
the smear test, but it doesn't pass the fucking hurricane test.
yeah, 100%. I do think though, Myson, you might have been getting to a different point of why are we so fashion conscious if the Miami Sprawl is so goddamn awful. And I think it's just a cultural thing in terms of Miami always being seen as that place,
Yeah,
and the
and,
Caribbean
like,
always
I
being
was-
seen as an escape.
Yeah,
Right?
it's Miami. It's.
I think the other part of
perfect
that
spot
though.
for this type of thing.
Yeah, the other part of that is in a world where you can't rely on the things that you were born with to be your identity. You have to have fashion to be your identity.
Yeah, and also when you're like filthy rich, it's like,
Yeah,
look at me, I'm so you want to see and be seen, and because like in some cases, like if you start falling out of favor, and you start getting like you're going to be relegated to further problems, or you get moved down into the
So it's just
areas.
a trend that naturally came with the immortality discovery.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, like, fashion isn't the same as any kind of art form or even music forms where the taste in your media defines an aspect of your like individuality and aesthetic, and that's actually relatively classless because the punk, which we're exploring cyberpunk, so punk is a really large part of it. That is specifically like anti-classist, but is still forming an identity and a fashion sense around a thing that the community publicly care about. So
is Amy going to be like the leader of this kind of fashion trend? Like,
I would definitely. I think for narrative convenience, it would be a good thing to explore for this piece of technology about transhumanism. If we're exploring that through the plotline, to make that an originator from Miami seems pretty reasonable. Yeah. So keeping all these bodies in a weather-resistant place is going to be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah. Trying to
we
keep
are the hub of progress. We are the shining spotlight of the entire country.
Yeah, from taking this shit to Chicago or Atlanta, especially.
Yeah.
Miami, its identity as a city is this.
Yeah.
Extremely fashionable, highfalutin type of thing, and they just kind of try and put that under the rug. This. Don't look at that. Don't look at that ghetto, please. No, look over there.
Just sweep it under the rug. It's okay. Look at the rest.
Look at the beach. House. No. Face the beach, please. I do not mind when I'm sweeping under the rug here.
What's all this?
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
So I want to move us along then. Now that we have a good idea of all this stuff, I want to look into what are the most notable industries that we would have in this sprawl, because I think that's going to inform what kind of corporations we absolutely have to have in this in the sprawl. So, for example, one of the things is building. Is one. We also have construction, building, construction, development, etc. Another is your androids, or just actually no, not even androids. The immortality, the transhuman. I don't know what we want to call it. I think it should have a name. This kind of. But what something
Self 2.
Self 2. Self 2.0 or no, or ooh, maybe you have like numbers. Like every time that you jump a body, you become 3.0 or 4.0 or something like that.
Oh, in the same way that lineages have like the third and the fifth.
I was gonna say that would work for different models of bodies. Like here's the next model, the next model.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're suggesting that they actually manufacture humans to put consciousnesses into?
Bodies are iPhones.
They buy attractive humans. They'll buy attractive humans, or they also but they might manufacture. That would make sense, right? Genetic engineering.
Okay. Yeah. I wonder. I guess that the bodies that they manufacture don't have a consciousness, because that would be complicated. So they essentially just make shells that
and even
they can't program.
Even if they did have a consciousness, it doesn't matter, because they're going to go. We don't care. We don't care about that consciousness. We care about the person that paid for this body.
Oh no! As in terms of like public knowledge, as far as like Joe Schmo on the street knows, they basically build human shells. If they did have a consciousness, the public would not know. Right.
They stunt them. Like for example, they might be in a stasis mode where they might be dreaming the whole time, so they have a consciousness, but they're not.
It floats in like a server hub kind of thing.
Yeah, like a server of humans.
Body.
Yeah, right.
The Matrix. That there's your Matrix right there. Bam.
Yikes.
So I guess Self 2.0. Since it requires a lot of computer technology, maybe the Matrix is part of this same kind of deal. I don't know. Anyway, we'll put Matrix here.
For my shit, I would quite like a robotic/AI company, which is probably separate / rival to the transhumanist company, because they are essentially marketing in on the same space.
What if one went What if one went the direction of industry, the other one went the direction of fashion? Just great looking, better perfection. I mean, competitors of the thing.
There's a degree of if we kind of extrapolate the idea of the reason why we buy new phones is because they're sexier models than the one before, it would stand to reason that service industry robotics would also have that same kind of aesthetic sense and probably inherent obsolescence.
Yeah, remember, like, absolutely, planned obsolescence, where it's like, oh, well, the next big thing is here, and now you're out of date, and then keep spending money to be, to not have your friends make fun of you. Like, why are you still on that dinosaur of a phone?
There you go.
Do you think fashion could possibly be a notable industry? I don't know if it would be an entire corporation, but
I mean, in the same
industry.
way that I think, as far as I actually read up on some Shadowrun lore recently, which is very rare for me, and I know, and it turns out that most of the megacorps still have like a media company. So Ares, even though they make guns, also make like lawyers and cop dramas. I would probably say that pretty much all of these corporations also have inherent fashion lines. Like, what would be the construction company fashion line? It will be like hard-wearing athleisure gear, and the people who are like the human manufacturing probably. Oh gosh.
And I like that because it gives each corporation its own distinct look. Right, we can think of them beyond just a service. We can think of them more as a corporate culture. In terms of
exactly, and that's one thing that you
like
really got to think about when that's what really, in my mind, differentiates a megacorp from just a regular corp, is that there is a corporate culture. There's something that, like, you work for the corp, you dress in the corp's clothes, you drive their cars, you eat their food, you are living that corporation.
Exactly.
You got to stay on brand. Fun fact thing, in Japan, or at least like Japan street fashion, they don't really describe them as subcultures, they call them lifestyles, which is a really interesting term of phrase for, you embody your lifestyle in not just how you dress, but your hobbies as well that align with your fashion. So I guess these companies all deal in lifestyles.
By the way, I love this soy mage quote. I love this soy mage quote in the chat. Who you wear is who you work. That is spicy. That is spicy.
Neat.
I might steal that for one of those things I'm working on.
Right. So what? So we have 3 notable industries so far. What would you say are like? Well, I guess when we talk about like what resources are hard, scarce to come by, are we talking food? Are we talking? I assume we're talking food.
I
mean,
like
food sounds
high-end
good.
natural food, like high-end natural food.
Unless
I think
aquaculture
food,
has
yeah.
just taken the fuck off in the center of the place,
I mean, I guess if most of the land has been overcome by seawater, growing natural plants is probably going to be really difficult now. So a company... I mean, I think maybe the kind of realm of like, oh yes, everything is soy is oh so faintly overdone, especially when at this point soy is actually part of most current people's diets anyway, from health reasons. But
not far-fetched.
But you know, the idea, it's the Jinteki from Netrunner. They deal in clones, but they also deal in food production. To like, you know, straight up, they grow wheat in an era where that would be impossible, and that kind of thing is a fun thing to explore. Because I mean, we've got to fill up all these we've got to fill up all these tiny islands with some kind of industry, right? The Arc Sprawl. There we go. Remember the term. Got to fill up some of the Arc Sprawl with kind of like, you know, island farms are definitely going to be one of the things that those land uses are going to be used for.
So I'm going to kind of say that instead of kind of soy being our protein substitute, I'm actually going to elect that there's kind of a hierarchy of fish.
That's cool.
As
like,
well
like
as
really compact processed fish.
Yeah, like think like canned tuna is our new soy burger.
Fish paste.
Fish paste.
Also probably
Fish
stuff like
paste,
algae, kelp, seaweed.
Yes, algae, kelp, And like, of course, lobster is still kind of your rare delicacy.
The people aren't getting enough system.
Yeah, like, and we definitely have a lot of aquaculture going on.
The Ark Sprawls across the world all make bomb-ass sushi. Like,
oh god, yes.
It's like, rather than it being like, oh yes, I'm being fancy and going out for some sushi, it's just standard meal at this point. It's like, so easy to access. Both growing rice and getting fish seem like the easiest things
banging
to
on your boy's door, just like, yo, when you open up, I need food, and he just serves you a fucking California roll. Like, get out of here. Gee, man, thanks.
Yeah, right. I think another thing to think about. One of Miami's current biggest notable industries is tourism. I don't know what that would look like for a corporation, but other than the glitz glam, I guess that maybe would still be part of construction development, unless there's like a corporation that's about like the image, right?
Well, what if you did have one corporation? You know, I hate to go back to Netrunner because I love Netrunner.
Not at all. Like, we should be using all of these different things as inspirations.
When Nathan brought up Netrunner, he brought up Jinteki, which is a corporation all about cloning, and then there's a rival corporation that does bioroids. It's like they are clearly like synthetic androids that have like a very smart consciousness. I hate to like completely rip that idea off, but it's like, what if one corporation did bioroids for industry and one did clones for like high fashion, high good looks, perfection kind of thing?
I think it's kind of what we have right now. We have the 2.0 genetic engineering. We have robotics, droids, AI, and we have any droids like that would be part of building, construction, development.
Yeah,
I think we have that. I think at this point maybe the questions now start. Let's just go ahead and talk about the different corporations, and I think at some point we're gonna have to fill in some spots, I think. Yeah.
Excited.
And I think also when we're creating these corporations, we might also be thinking about like what corporations would be in deals / antagonism with, because that might create its own corporation. And I see some suggestions in chat, like military corp might be a thing to consider.
We need some, I mean, and yes, we do need some way to hold on. I'm absolutely stuck on Elenis Cyborg's comment of roaming gangers of rednecks with airboats. I can't get that out of my head.
I'm gonna go ahead and put that in right now. This goes in the scum.
Okay, thank you. Roaming gangs of airboat riding rednecks.
Oh, are airboats like the boats with the gigantic fans on the back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, that's cool. I want an airboat like chase. That'd be so sick.
I should have been the driver after all.
Fucking just. It's like a car chase, but 10 times louder, and everybody's shouting to be heard over the band.
So let's go ahead and just finally go, now that we've like discussed the general themes and topics and worlds, let's talk about the corporations that run the worlds, or run this world. So whoever wants to start grabbing one of these.
Oh. Mine is
slash introduce one. Yeah. So okay, I see Allie's like chomping at the bit, so go for it.
Yes, always. First on the list, bitch. So I mentioned this earlier, but my corp idea, Ozzy mentioned it way back when, was like, use something that makes you angry for your corporation. And I chose a theme of medical gatekeeping as my status as a transgender person, has a kind of me scared shitless, you know, of somebody in power, in like a doctor saying you cannot have this because you need to go through this and this and this, and it just gets to this prohibitive level of excessive garbage. And especially since we are in a sprawl where modifying yourself is so prevalent, having the medical corp also in there to almost rival, you know, the Self 2.0 and stuff, just like they portray themselves as a voice of reason through gatekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
And it ties back to my character kind of having personal beef with this corporation.
Mhm.
But that's kind of their PR, is we are the voice of reason within this whole mess. We are all about safe practice of such things, which basically means if you want cyberware, if you want to, modify yourself seriously, then like we are going to make you jump through so many goddamn hoops.
So then, what kind of industries do they like? What do they provide?
What do they provide?
What do they provide? If
Stock and
they're
trade.
Yeah,
I envision them a little bit as sort of the first. The first is the obvious one, kind of the dock wagon of our universe, kind of ambulance trauma services. Of course,
With
at a very
guns.
steep price.
With guns.
Yep.
pharmaceuticals rather.
Yes. Yep, pharmaceuticals, as well as health foods. They're kind of all the rage up on the upper levels for, oh, look at this wild caught tilapia paste, fucking the fuck, dude? What are you doing?
Right.
As well as maybe less than lethal weaponry such as pepper spray, beanbag shotguns, etc.
Oh yeah, and like the narcoject is my first thought from Shadowrun. Yeah, like poisons
like,
and drugs and stuff.
Like, and that's a bit on the drugs. I was actually thinking about this too. Like, what is this Sprawl thing? Like, what are our drugs? I want to know what the big and I was thinking about this earlier as well. There has got to be at least one like slum area where they've kind of planted drugs in order to kind of get them to kill themselves.
Oh God.
Yes.
Oh man.
So we've got to figure out our freaking drug there.
Yes. So definitely I think let me put a drugs note somewhere in.
Yes.
Let's put it under the underworld.
Yeah. And of course,
Okay.
we've got to figure that out as it's cyberpunk. You've got to have drugs.
Here's my question. Let's start with what kind of corporate culture are you seeing, and also what kind of headquarters are you seeing this place?
I am. Let's do corporate culture because we already kind of discussed that. So that voice of reason, that safe practice thing, they're very refined. They are kind of your classic, almost doctor archetype of I know everything.
Are they based in America?
I would say probably. That's a good question, actually. I hadn't thought about that bit. But they're
Are they all into a mindfulness?
Yes, they're all
Yeah.
into like, and with like the health food, like they're running the fucking. Basically, it's like the organic bullshit thing, like eat our food products. If
This
you don't
also
wanna
seems
die
like
early.
this also seems like a very educated.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
they probably
Like,
provide education as well.
Their corporate citizens pride themselves on being educated, on being mindful of things, and to a degree of they turn up their nose at most others.
I don't know why, but you're making me think of like something like a China Corp or Japanacorp.
A little bit. They do sound very Japanacorp-y, actually, when you think about it.
Maybe they're giving me more of a British vibe.
A little bit.
Careful now.
Oh no, that's quite funny.
Only because of the
idea-
refined, highly educated part. Like it feels like that's part of their voice. Is that?
Ooh.
No, I get you. I think it's funny from the perspective of kind of like, it's a British corporation that forms like a medtech company and then goes to the US and charges for that.
How does that jive at all
hilarious.
with your perspective
that's
of
good.
British culture? Because maybe I'm just.
I mean, like, colonizers and incredibly self-interested, like, absolutely.
King and Chad.
I imagine this British corporation just taking all that money, from Miami or wherever, and just pouring it into the NA.
They're just like, holy shit, we can charge for this here? What?
Yeah, pretty much.
Absolute madness!
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I guess to then tie into a level of, because all of these tie in with fashion brands
Definitely,
as well,
and,
they've
like,
probably taken Savile Row over. So this company is the one that has like the incredibly like classic, incredibly clean tailoring company.
Yes, like we're talking.
They have
like,
all the formal wear.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of feedback in chat from. Let me.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Potentially, also in-house drone works, given to just kind of drug dropping bullshittery. I'm seeing name feedback, something with lifestyle or dynamic. I feel like that works and is posh enough.
I like dynamics. Dynamics, I think, is a good name. It has a good portion of it of a name here.
Yeah,
so we gotta come up with like the last.
Dynamics.
Gotta come up with that last.
Yeah.
Something dynamics.
Make it simple and just have it be medical dynamics.
Or something. There's of course that
Or Dynamed.
Dynamed.
Dynamed's very good.
Hello,
All right, there we
Dynamed.
go.
She like
Love it.
Angel hears Dynamed. She's like, oh.
Dynamed. Oh yeah.
She immediately starts making gagging noises like.
It's so catchy, it makes you gag.
So catchy, it makes me want to gag.
Love it. All right, so we have a Dynamed, and we're thinking. Are we thinking
Dynamed.
British? I saw Italian could also be a possible.
British, Italian, kind of a Euro.
Yeah, like maybe a Eurocorp. Yeah.
Potentially
Euro.
also.
Could be all of it.
I mean,
the sprawl
in this kind of period of
Come from different
time.
places, so yeah, it could be like multiple corporations merge into one. It's a Eurocorp.
Yeah.
Depending on the kind of time period or timeline that this takes place in, I don't know whether there would be a British company that's part of Eurocorp, but maybe this is the good timeline. Who knows?
Got him.
Jokes, except not really. No, I can see.
We're gonna go ahead and make our Brexit here. Yeah, have a good night. Sorry.
I guess there's a fair amount if you want to kind of be kind of classic imagery with it, tying in a medical corp to the kind of Greco-Roman imagery of Asclepius and that kind of thing.
Yes, there's that.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
it definitely would be. It sounds a little that kind of their attitude being of practicing this refined classical medicine.
Yeah. They have their private server is called Library of Alexandria, etc. That kind of thing.
Ooh. Do we have a logo idea for them?
I almost want to go with the almost like kind of a. So since we're going with a little bit Greco-Roman vibes, I'm thinking kind of the snake around the staff.
Oh, the stuff of Caduceus, yeah.
Staff of Caduceus, and then it's like kind of a more like as you would see it on Greek pottery or something, like that.
Oh man, you just gave me a logo idea. Like,
I totally. I don't know how to spell Caduceus.
It's very. It's probably more angular than the classic imagery they're in.
Yes,
they have like a lot of
kind of a slant type of thing.
Pretty much every bits and pieces that they have it branded on, it's like laser etched in. So there's like a kind of like oh yes, it's classy.
There's a degree of just refinement and almost hazard to say maybe it's two snakes just to give it that symmetry because of, the attitude.
It had to be snakes. It had to be snakes.
Soy Mage said a winged Caduceus with hands holding it.
Ooh.
So maybe like because I don't want to just do the general.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look,
that's a
right?
little bit.
You want to give it a little extra.
This is the logo is not something I had. Despite just being like, yes, I love this type of thing. Oh god, I like the two snakes idea.
Okay. I mean, we could think about it, right? If another idea comes up, because I want to get through more corporations.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on.
But yeah, I think this is a good start for sure. Who wants to go next?
I can go. Oh, sure. You go ahead.
I don't know how much of Nathan's idea I'm accidentally going to steal, but unfortunately, Ozzy, I could not contain myself, so I did write a bunch of things.
I figured.
So my endless, boundless creativity came up with the name Syracuse Industries by this guy, Richard Syracuse. He was ugly, but he was wealthy. So he just came up with this idea, let's make a bigger, better, stronger body. He could just maybe be the guy who cracked immortality. I don't know.
Oh
but
my god.
He came up with the implementation that lets you be able to access these things. I just called it a simulation drive, sim drive, or nest drive. But it just made it an implant that lets you actually jack in it to be able to access the robots. And the company's motto, why be a better you?
Why be a what?
Why be you when you could be a better you? So I wanted to play with like sci-fi concepts that constantly come up in cyberpunk, with the idea of constantly trying to perfect yourself in some fashion, or with robots and stuff. But when we're talking about the things I hate, kind of playing off what Allie started with, I hate the control of information. Like how information is just like, it's cherry-picked, it's fine-tuned, it's modified, and it's fed to the public, and the public might not even know it's real or not. And that drives me insane when like false information is constant.
Yeah.
So to play into what I was talking about earlier, robots where your consciousness is uploaded into and you're getting information from the Matrix or whatever, that information is constantly modified. And what you think is real, what you think exists, what you think history is, or how math works, or how the English language was formed, or what happened in the Greek period, that's changed on a day-to-day basis to suit the corporation's need, and you would never know the difference.
Right.
Because this whole thing is built on the concept of perfecting yourself, this is, I guess, where the fashion cloning idea came in, or fashion bioroidy thing, or
The Self 2.0.
Self 2.0. I was just gonna say schooling and growth came up as part of this thing. Like, as a kid, you're put in a vat, and you're put inside these bioroids that can learn better, think faster. You're just built to be attuned with this thing. So that's just the general ballpark I traveled to when creating this idea.
So for the fashion side of that, then, do they produce a lot of couture that is?
Couture what?
Sorry, my connection just flickered. Apologies.
That's okay. It's everyone.
Okay.
Jeez.
Woohoo.
Jeez.
I
That was
mean,
scary.
Discord's great. I love Discord. Why did Skype have to betray us so? So with the kind of fashion side of things, it feels like the clothing that they might produce might be smart linked. That they have, if part of the company is kind of getting this job done to you so you can have the hardware that lets you transfer your consciousness, then it feels like on the day-to-day that should still be doing other things rather than just that. So connecting to your entire outfit as well as your in the interior design of your home, they are the kind of what's the term for they're the Internet of Things company.
Yeah.
In addition to with all the shit that Internet of Things brings to your home and your person.
I also did think about these vat farms where, like, basically it's just a giant farm of bed vats where you just climb into a tank, plug yourself in, and you're in the Matrix. And you're uploading into robots, you're doing matrixy things, you're learning things like in seconds, you're jumping into more robots, and that's where your body stays, is in these farms. And it could be maintained by people. I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. But I do love your Internet of Things idea. That could be a fun thing to bounce off of if they're controlling information.
Yeah.
And technology around that information.
Yeah, I can see, because There's something about if the majority of the people that subscribe to that corporation are VAT bound and don't go anywhere, then how is people going to see their dope looks? So I have what if it was like tiered? Like there are entry-level consumers for that company that have more of the Internet of Things and stuff, like the upper-ranking members of the company. It's like biggest investors, and they are the kind of people that VAT themselves, rather than it being the majority of the user base.
So if you're just a general user, you just have to live in a crappy little house. You just plug yourself into a terminal, and off you go to a robot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you might be in a fancier home that's smart linked to you, and then higher still, that fancier home is just smaller and smaller until it is a glass tube that you chill in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the farm's idea was. It's like people are they're just putting boxes now. They don't need anything else. They're just putting a box.
So and actually, I believe that's what they did with Ruiner. I only remember this because I was playing it yesterday.
Man, I still gotta play it.
Oh, it's fun, but it's hard as fuck. But tangents aside, kind of that farms idea, yes, down for it. And actually, I made another reference in our little chat that I imagined Syracuse kind of looking like this kind of amalgamated head on a chassis type of thing. And maybe that is a huge secret, or yeah, like, because like you mentioned he was ugly but powerful, and it's like if it got out that Richard Syracuse was originally this basically head on a floating glorified platter, that would just be that would literally just
I could see him being that now. I could see Richard Syracuse be that now. I think okay, Richard Syracuse is this ugly guy, powerful, creates or comes across either whatever, has his technology self 2.0 comes across. So he is the Elon Musk of this world, basically. He is attributed as the person who has changed everything, right? So now, with his obsession of becoming bigger, stronger, more attractive, now maybe he is like this disembodied, like,
oh yeah,
but we never see Richard Syracuse anymore, except for maybe like various VAT
like as
versions
an avatar,
of himself,
like a digital avatar.
He probably just has a bunch of various VAT versions, and he's always trying to find the next best looking thing, and then like they just all like every time that he finds someone more attractive than his current one, like his stable, like they just go like into the stable, the old ones.
Is that what you call the farms?
I guess, yeah, and then they're used, and then that's Richard Syracuse's way of like he can spend, he can go ahead and just throw out a bunch of different people in his stable to do jobs for him, or rather to hire people or investigate or whatever. Like so he has like a whole stable of.
I kind of want him to have a musical number about that now, kind of like in a Little Mermaid kind of way, like, look at my things, isn't it neat? And he just summons the various people he's collected.
My God.
Oh gosh.
Oh, and there's like a huge thing about trying to
want
track,
more.
Trying to track the hell is in the stable, Or like if he wants somebody new for that stable, that's like a huge that like he's gonna like snatch him up. They're gonna go gone. You're without fucking trace. You're done.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ.
And of course,
God.
him being an imperfect corp, because as all corps should be imperfect in some fashion. So I'd imagine like these stables, like sometimes they fail, sometimes they run out of power, or sometimes somebody like a competition tries to sabotage them and just like kill the workforce and prove their method sucks. Their thing is garbage. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And maybe that could play into LA's get cybernetics and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like and of course Angel, somebody who would totally just like, I want to ruin a stable. I feel like doing this.
And some people are trying to find like the stable where Syracuse is and try to bring it down, but they just can't find it.
Where the hell is he? One of these days.
If we cut that head off, it'll cut off all this misinformation getting out to the robots. It'll stop controlling robots, the Flavoroids or whatever, the selves.
So chances are then that if they also manufacture cybernetics, these are probably like these are probably some of the cybernetics that Angel has, for example.
Yeah, definitely. And they've like owned, and I've like fleshed out who made her shit, but also they could own like Huawei, Nike, and just be like, this is like our athletic fashion cyber leg, you know.
Now, what's interesting about this is we had talked before about the sort of Self 2.0 versus cybernetics being like in competition, essentially, ideologically, right? I find it very interesting if they're owned by the same corporation, and they're basically just
no matter what
playing it against itself. They're like, well, you're gonna be better. You can pick how.
They do. That's part of the misinformation thing they do. Nobody knows that they're actually the same company.
Yeah.
Like, it's plugged into our brains that they're two different entities competing against each other when he's controlling the market.
Yeah.
Like 2000s era rappers who start a beef just because they've got 2 albums that they're going to put out. So
and they're owned by the same record company.
Encouraged to pick a side, but it's going to the same record label. It doesn't matter.
Oh man, I love it.
Going back to the corporate culture and fashion stuff, I think it's interesting the smart linking. One of the things I thought is that if this company is so interested in revising things, I would imagine that the corporate culture here is I wear whatever the corporation decides today. My house looks like whatever the corporation decides today.
Okay, today it's not gray suits, it's now purple suits.
Correct.
You
got to keep up to date.
And
if you own their smart linked suit, it already has a color changing function. So if you've got that, you're good. But for the other people that don't, then you're gonna buy a new suit, my friend.
Yep.
I just wanted to save one comment from Soy Mage. Don't work for SI if you favor your face. I've heard the pretty ones go missing.
Okay,
and that's
Allie,
just like, fuck.
Soy Mage, thank you.
Yes.
And Allie, thank you for bringing that up, because you know what? I was thinking of that as a motive.
Fucking Christ.
But
And
I'll save that when we get there.
And
get there.
And that's definitely something for our connection, a connection between our two characters. It's like, oh yeah, SI is why I carry a fucking gun everywhere, because I'm worried about getting fucking snatched, you know? Like, I worked hard on this. And the second they find it attractive, I'm gone. I hate this.
And my idea was, like, somebody was in the vat that I cared about, but something happens to them. I try to figure out who they are, where they are, if they're in another body, or if someone just unplugged them and killed them. I don't know.
We're trying.
That was the route I was going to go to.
But and we're just like connected by, we both can't stand Syracuse. Let's take him down.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
All right, so I dig this. So I think in general we would say that the corporate culture here is very controlled, uniform, oppressive, almost oppressive.
If you work for Syracuse, everyone will know it. Everyone will know it.
Oppressive, but accepted, right? Like this is
the fact of life.
Voluntary oppression is basically what I would call this, and then, but also,
the phrase
beautiful.
Mandatory trendsetters comes to mind.
Yeah.
That's another good riff against them. Mandatory trendsetters.
Yeah.
That's all I got, unless you want to talk about the logo now.
Oh yeah, logo. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So, as Ali was talking, an idea popped into my head. You know how, like, there's those silhouettes of, like, a mannequin head looking to the side?
Yeah.
And some logos. And you have, like, the S drive on, like, their temple. But there's also, like, these little wires that, like, extend outwards. So it's like a circle with a head, and wires, like, just flow that way.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I will actually be taking a crack at designing some of these, maybe, so we might have.
Ooh, yes.
I will use my Photoshop powers for good for.
Yeah.
Nice, or even illustrate just like nice vectors of these logos would be super.
And sorry if I'm rushing to the end of this. I just looked at the time and I'm like, shit, I need to let somebody else talk about the cool idea.
Oh no,
now.
it's fine.
Oh yeah, no. Like, I think we're on good pace. But actually, that said, I could use let's say a 5-minute break.
Hell yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, let's take 5.
Gonna
So
get
let's take
myself
a-
a snack, pour myself a glass of wine, standard.
Yes. So everyone, stick around. Keep up. Keep thinking. This is our chance for everybody to like take a breather and think on the toilet. So let's. That's where the best ideas come from.
Thinking
Right?
shit. Let's go, baby.
Oh man.
All right. So stay tuned.
See
We'll
you
be back
soon.
in 5.
Yeet.
Later.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the
Hello.
Sprawl
Hello.
here on the Shadowcasters Network.
We
Oh,
are
I didn't
back.
see you there.
I changed the music to go for something a little more sinister because
Yeah.
We're fucking
we're
corporations. Oh my god.
we're in the midst of a shitload of really bad guys. I don't know if this music is even bad enough. Also,
I don't
hello to
know.
like all of the brand new people that showed up, and we're
Oh
like,
my
God, hey everybody, what's up?
What's up?
How many people do we have?
What's the count right now?
130 people.
Guys, I can't count that high.
Oh, oof.
I can't get that high.
Anyways, both of you, and hold on. Kenichia says everyone nailed the character wardrobes. Thank you so much.
I
Thank you
know.
very much.
Aren't we,
We were
fucking
adamant
sexy?
on getting these.
Look at this mug, the contouring.
I love that makeup.
Look at this anonymousness. Look at it. Look at it go.
And then there's just me. Hi, what's up?
Sup?
I know your eyeshadow is to fucking die for, my darling.
I've decided I'm wearing this to Gen Con
God.
for sure. I have to go full dressed up. I'm going to keep working on this outfit and just
Oh
making
no,
it
Ozzy,
perfection.
Ozzy. You said we are all gonna get dressed up at Gen Con together,
Yes.
and we're just gonna take photo.
I will
Photo
take
shoot, photo
photos.
ops.
I will take
That's-
photos. I promise.
Yes. So let's talk.
Nice
Let's
photos.
recap because we have a bunch. Since we have so many new people, let's discuss what we've created so far. So I would just kind of skim
Let's
up
run
the
through it.
notes. We are in the Miami Arc Sprawl. The Arc is short for Archipelago. It is made up of artificial islands, floating islands, aquacologies, oil rigs that are abandoned, and corporate trash, recycled islands that are attached to those. Essentially, there were major rising sea levels that led to the Islands Replication Project. Droids were created to be able to maintain that against the rising sea levels. Transhumanist technology was discovered by a man named Richard Syracuse of Syracuse Industries. And essentially what that allows is the transferring of consciousness and, of course, transferring to stronger, more attractive people. So essentially there is a lot of body theft, human trafficking, etc. We're also a very fashion conscious world, so we're going to be serving Lukes all day. Get used to it here, get used to it in our story. So yeah, this is a very the general gist that I'm getting from this is it's a very superficial, horrifying world.
There's some fucked up shit.
There's a lot of fucked up shit happening, so this is great. So right now, what's cool about the Sprawl as a system is we get to create the world that we live in, which is why we're here. And so far we've created 2 of the corporations that are in our universe. We each get to create one. So Allison and Myson have already created Dynamed, the Medical Eurocorp, and Syracuse Industries, the Biological Engineering and Matrix Corp, which I realized we didn't put like a location for, but it feels like this should be Miami's baby.
I can agree with that. Sure, yeah.
Miami's problem child.
Yeah.
Did we establish Syracuse was the guy who cracked that quote unquote immortality code? I guess he'll be the face of that.
Yeah.
The
Alrighty
ugly effing face of that.
So we have 3 more corporations to create. So who wants to go next?
I can take the next one if that's it.
Go for it.
Sure. So, because my character has a lot of involvement with AI and robotics ethics, I want my corporation to be essentially the mirroring of Syracuse. So they are also kind of doing a lot of service industry fabrication of robots. Then saw this like transhumanist angle thing and went like, nope. and instead kind of doubled down on the idea of creating robots to deal with scarcity and lack.
Robots?
Sorry?
Are these like robots?
Yes, as I said before,
androids, right?
I am not necessarily thinking about replicants of like people of robots that look exactly like humans. They part of their deal is that they prefer to make robots that don't look like people, so that they can treat them not like people. However, they are pretty revolutionary in terms of AI production and to build service industry, to build like social industry stuff. That's probably the best way to put it.
Ooh.
So if building robots that are like run retail, that can do even like work in the fashion industry as like stylists and makeup artists, and even to the extent of like synthetic therapists they probably make as well. So they need a really, really good understanding of the human condition, but they're not people. Absolutely
They
not.
are
They're like
4 foot
facsimiles
tall.
No. As far as the company is concerned, it's like, oh, these you can talk to them like a real human, but they're not human. Don't you dare.
Right,
There.
like they
like,
have the facial expressions, but the facial expressions are always just off. They're very like stunted. Like it's not. They're not meant to look and feel like people because that's not
there
their
is
job.
supposed
That's
to
not
be
their
a
purpose.
very obvious line in the
So-
sand there. Like, well,
So Detroit become human
enforced
androids?
uncanny.
Oh, sorry, Myson?
So like Detroit become human androids?
No,
No,
even
but that's-
even
I'm
lower, even
Not
lower
at
than
all.
that.
Yeah.
You can
their
tell that
most,
they're
I,
drones.
I would probably say that their most high fidelity robots are like cartoonish. So the ones that with the best and most believable facial expressions look like living anime characters, for
I
example.
was
They're
going to
obviously
say,
not
like,
human.
if you saw they made out of Lita Battle Angel.
Yes,
Alita
that's a
Battle
very
Angel,
good
yeah.
tempo to take it. Yeah.
I'm thinking
Yeah, there you go.
that.
Mhm.
Alright.
So it's all kind of like they dodge a lot of their kind of like basic robots are kind of in the Wall-E kind of like, oh yes, it's human, but clearly in a kind of cute
Just so
way.
fucking
And their best
boring.
ones look like cartoon characters, and probably they have like a side industry in the kind of like entertainment industry. They probably produce I mean, it loops into stuff that I've already done on the talent agency, but they absolutely have a theme park.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
for sure.
Where everything is robots.
Ocean
Hey,
theme
Nathan.
park, let's go.
Ocean
Nathan,
theme park.
They,
I'm not gonna
they
slam on my
they
desk 'cause that's where the
obviously
mic
purchased.
is.
They obviously
It's just
purchased
it's
Disney
a
World.
board. It's the boardwalk. That's the boardwalk.
Mm,
So Nathan,
Yeah,
apparently,
they-
Soy Mage has come out of the woodwork again to give us another cool idea for name. Or
there's there's a reason why he says Orpheus Manufacturing. I don't want it to cut that close to my content. That's a bit much. The
Did you
main
have
AI
a-
in the talent agency is called
Did you-
Orpheus.
I see. Did you have a name in mind though? For the...
I did write down a placeholder name of Memory Gold Incorporated, because obviously the way that they're they don't reveal how they manage to get the AI as smart as they are, but
Yeah, but there.
it's very kind of like you know how Apple is really, really like hush hush on how all their technology works, or even Google, like how Google refuses to tell anybody how its search engines or content algo operate.
Yeah.
It does a lot of that, but you know, some criminals might find out.
See, I'm just thinking of how real this AI is, and like they're like, and especially with your character, kind of just like liberating them, you know, helping them live as people. Oh boy, just there's a lot of things with just like
He might be wrong, you know. My character might actually be just trying to put a whole bunch of Tamagotchis in bodies because he thinks they're human, even though they're not. Who knows?
Oh.
That's the thing where we
valid
play to
as
find
hell.
out.
Pat, you're valid.
He's doing his best.
He is.
you are giving me the Detroit vibes, man. I love it.
Please stop comparing my stuff to Detroit. That makes me so mad.
Okay, with a better writer, okay? Does that make you feel? No.
At baseline, I would hope so.
Change.org petition: Nathan Blades should rewrite Detroit Become Human.
Oh my god, if I had the opportunity, but let's not get into that shit, right? We don't have time to unpack all of them.
No, we
Oh,
don't.
fucked up world without that thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yes,
We don't
I would.
need that to be fucked up. We're fucking it up in other more imaginative ways that I am
Yes.
just absolutely just about.
So
I have some ideas about the kind of fashion and corporate culture stuff, but I kind of leave that open to the table a little bit.
well, go ahead and start with your ideas, and then we'll just bounce off of them, right?
Sure. So they definitely deal in. They love making cyberware. They make super fashionable cyberware.
Yes, bitch. Angel.
so-
Would you say
they-
that they're
they build
maybe
it-
more lower end than Syracuse in terms of like? Since Syracuse is
Functionality.
more interested about like high-end cybernetics, or rather, they're more of a biological corp, right? So the cybernetics are almost kind of like an afterthought, and whenever they're they're for performance, like very, for
They look
memory
like-
golds, they're serviceable cybers.
Yeah,
Cyberware.
I think they are kind of they I think they make two types of prosthetics actually. They make one for service industry, so it's kind of like you're a chef. Well, here's an arm with a whisk in it. Let's go. It does your job better. You know, it's
menacingly.
they make some like Inspector Gadget shit. I don't think they make weaponry. And then on the other side of it, it's like, ooh, you need you're looking after your kids in the daytime, but at nighttime you need to be at the Met Gala. Well, we've got these legs that like have scales in them that unfold from like day to night look. They do party wear.
My
So
The
they
fashion wear.
operate on either ends of the spectrum. They do efficient work, like lifestyle work, rather than
Nathan
military.
Blades, you are making me just rule over.
I
these
mean,
legs.
I know what I like.
believe
You know, I can't.
I know, but like, I wish I had thick as hell. Rippling
if you-
down them, like all of a sudden, oh, look at these babies.
hmm I think if you bought their fashion legs and tried to kick somebody with them, they would probably shatter, but it would look so good.
They even look good when they break.
Mhm.
They explode in glitter.
As for their kind of like standard like day-to-day wear, I think they make a lot of street fashion. I think they are definitely the most styling courier you know wears outfits from Memory Gold Incorporated.
So I'm getting kind of maybe it's just because I equate robots and androids and stuff like this to Japan. But I could see, like, when we were talking about street and styling, like, I don't want to say Harajuku, but, like that kind of...
Kind of the offshoot.
Yeah, Shibuya, like Cat Street. I get you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
hell yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, so
they have a whole bunch of... sorry, go ahead.
No, the anime character thing for the droids also gives me that impression of, like, they might really like that kind of, like, over-the-top anime
Otaku culture.
fashion. Yeah.
The CEO is absolutely not Japanese. It's been like inherited or absorbed by some other company, and it's like, oh no, but the user base like the anime bullshit. So I guess we just keep making that.
Yeah.
There is like
So
a
it's
weird
like, it's
ironic
like
distort.
Americanized Japanese, almost like, kind of like Alita.
A little bit.
I think there's just a degree of not wanting to do the cyberpunk thing where it's like, oh yes, we're going to set this in like Asia because it's exotic and we don't understand. I think everybody involved is hyper cognizant of what they're making. It's they saw Blade Runner back when it was like 1980s and were kind of like, oh yes, this is what the nerds crave, which is maybe slightly meta. I don't know.
Right. So it's not a Japan, or it's a inherited Japanicorp.
Yes, that would be the simplest way to put it.
Where's it originally
It
based?
was one.
It was a Japanicorp.
Yeah, I think one of its its original build was probably fucking like Uniqlo, and they expanded into like wearable tech, because I think that's how they advertise their stuff now, is wearable tech, and they took that increasingly literally and then became a robotics company.
Okay. So this corporate culture is basically what I'm getting is fake Japanese.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because they're
Fake
Yeah.
Japanese. I love it.
yeah. What is the term I'm thinking? It's not where they take the culture. Am I thinking?
Cultural appropriation?
Yes.
I literally was thinking that, like, appropriation, oh fun.
At their worst, they are definitely that. They're
Yes.
definitely that at their worst. But I think they are like the fashion and tech equivalent of fusion cuisine. They're like super into the idea of taking globalized ideas and fusing them into a thing that can be appreciated by everyone. Because everybody likes our product. It's perfect.
Right.
The perfect product. Oh my god.
Oh man.
I was like so jazzed on this style of
So wait,
pork, and then all of a sudden.
You make the perfect product.
Yeah.
Oh,
right,
sorry,
like
you
we-
cut out there. Oh, for me anyway.
Yeah, no.
It's like you make the perfect product, and we make the perfect you.
Yeah. They are considerably more interested in getting people to buy more products than buy themselves. If that makes sense. Because, you know, the pinnacle of Syracuse is to reject all physical matter and live in a tube, and they're like, that's not profitable, we don't want that. So they are all about shipping products.
Once, you know, but we can sell you like these vending machine crop tops so many fucking times.
Oh,
Mhm.
I'm so dumb. Like, Florida has Disneyland, right? And they
Yes.
own the theme park, so this fits. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, yeah, totally.
They bought out Disneyland Florida and turned
They
it
bought
into an
fucking-
underwater amusement park because
They
they're
bought-
trash. Yes.
Man,
Oh,
listen, if
man.
you can buy Disney, you are. Oof.
Yeah.
Mm.
You are.
Because Disney is buying everything.
I don't know whether they I don't want to necessarily call that they've bought Disney. Maybe they have, but they've definitely bought the land to the park. They were like,
Yeah.
Or it
Like,
used to be
especially after-
Disney. This is like
after it
this,
got flooded for the third time, Disney were like, we can't maintain this property.
Yeah. Yeah. Disney is basically gum on shoe now in the
Oh, man.
larger scheme of what the corporations that we have in this world, right? So
Yeah. And like a lot of these recognizable brands are just used as kind of name recognition. Like I like spec'd out a lot of my cyberware with brands and stuff, but like these are obviously owned by a lot of our megas, and like they're playing off saying using the name of Sony to elicit a feeling of, oh yeah, Sony cameras have always been good, so I'm gonna get their cyber eyes, you know?
No, that
This
definitely
is,
tracks.
I feel like this is definitely a memory. Definitely is probably deep into that shit. Like, oh yeah, we bought, you know, like Corning, so like, check it out, we're still making Gorilla Glass, babes. Fuck.
So I dig this. Is there anything else in particular that we can think of here for, or do we just want to create the logo and then move on to the next?
What are the other kind of categories that I don't have? We've got the fashion side of things. I don't really necessarily have a person in mind aside from the fact that even though he owns a very Japanese corp, he himself is not Japanese.
Right.
But I don't necessarily know anything
he
else
an
about the
otaku,
guy. I think he is. That would be why. That would be why they bought the company. They they you know, they admired the whole like Nintendo product or tourism, and were like, I want to be that, and then used a large amount of money and force to do so. But whether they actually managed to maintain that fantasy is to be seen.
Right.
Did you say where this corporation will be like based? Is it going to be like an American corp now?
Yeah. No, I guess it would stand to reason with the kind of like weeb that I'm making the CEO. That he's based in the he's based in the US somewhere. Although I think a lot of the he specifically that's perfect. He specifically kind of kept the home base of it still in Japan just so he gets to travel there on the regs. He's
Right.
that kind of
Oh, man.
person.
Fucking-
So the HQ
Oh,
is still Japan.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's ran by.
Oh, that's great.
Bros. I
Now
hate
something
this.
now something to keep in mind here though is all five of these corporations we have to think of them as they have a big base here in this Miami arc sprawl.
Yeah.
So they have whole buildings and neighborhoods dedicated to them. So this is a so like even if they're headquartered somewhere else, like that's where their power base is, they're still a big influence and driving force.
I think Memory Gold Inc. is their theme park arcology. That's where their main base is in Florida.
Nice. Theme park arcology.
Yeah.
Take the roller coaster to work,
You
baby.
can live there. If you are that intense, you can
You take the
absolutely
monorail.
live at this theme park. Yeah. I have created the worst people, and I love it. Good.
So we have civilized voice of reason traditionalist doctors. We have fucking snatchers, and we have rich weeaboos.
Pretty much.
What's the
I'm entirely
Miami?
incapable of making a grimdark thing. I'm sorry.
It's fine. This is
Have
grim
you
dark in
seen
its
how
own
we're
way.
dressed?
I mean, also listen to that music. Just going about this talk about a weeaboo here running a court.
Okay, so
goddamn milquetoast tech, bro.
Paul. So I think. Oh wait, we still need a logo for this corp. And are we still cool with Memory Gold, or did we want to go with any of the ideas in chat?
Let's take a look at the names in chat. There's
Let's
obvious
let the ideas pop out.
manufacturing. There's an Army Creations. Oh, let's just have all the Persona references, Soy Mage. Jesus.
I mean, it's perfectly weeaboo.
It would be.
Picks the most
Oh my
weeaboo sounding
God.
name.
I'm seeing like Universal Constructs as another idea.
Universal Constructs is pretty good. Like,
It's just
they-
isn't-
So mega corporate, generic.
Yeah, but
I
it doesn't
love
really. That's the thing. For me, it's too generic. I like Memory Gold. It sticks out.
Memory gold, and it's like I'm just imagining all the fucking advertisements, like the same level of weird Japanese advertisements, going like memory gold,
Memory Gold.
For short.
memory gold.
Membo for
Oh
short.
my God.
Jesus.
So how about this logo idea from Alanis? A golden leaf with neuron vein pattern.
Ooh.
Posh,
I like it.
That's pretty posh. I like the I was thinking also in terms of like, you know, if this company runs on nostalgia a fair amount, that their logo is like the old like floppy save logo. Like only people who are truly keyed into the past will get it, and then everybody else is like, I don't see how that has anything to do with memory. I don't get it.
And it's just like
What an odd array of lines and boxes.
It's so abstract. Like,
and then just like somebody goes, wait, you ain't never seen a floppy disk?
No, nobody's seen a
They're all
floppy
the
disk.
rage.
no, I think we're probably of a
Floppy
generation
guys,
where we.
hold on, flavor thing. Floppy disk, new vinyl.
Floppy disks are the new vinyl.
Oh,
What would you
have
even
no
put on
idea the number of like vaporwave albums you can buy on floppy disk? I am not kidding.
Oh my god. So do you want to do that instead of the golden leaf, or do you want to like
I like the nature the irony of having a nature graphic with a company that deals exclusively in robotics
Yeah.
is
And, like,
kind of funny.
What I'm imagining is kind of this. Let me try and get this right. Kind of a serif font, like all caps, kind of like an all caps Times New Roman affair. Like it kind of looks like an old computer box.
Yeah, like it would be etched into a block of gold. I quite like to fuse Soy Mages and Alanis's idea. The idea of it being a flower of some kind, I really like.
Yeah, like a
Right,
yeah.
let's go and briefly Google if there are, in the language of flowers, which one has to do with memories.
Ooh,
Research.
interesting.
Search.
I just know that the flower that constitutes my last name is one that has to do with death and pretty ladies, and like, hey, mood.
Oh, okay, yeah, I mean, there's
Belladonna?
a flower called the Forget-Me-Not, like, duh, okay. So let's see what that flower looks like. But yeah, it's like a golden flower with a very, very kind of, it's a 5-petaled flower, it's quite cute, cool. I'll link a picture
They're
of
very
that
small.
in the private
Got it.
chat.
So we're thinking a golden flower petal or a flower
Yeah,
or like,
a golden
origin with a
5-petaled flower.
Mm-hmm. Golden 5-petaled flower with some sort of like a
Mm-hmm.
kind of a old computer set, and like maybe it's like Each petal is a different color, or they're all gold, depending.
They even have a little golden star in the middle, like the actual forget-me-nots. So I think this
star,
would
like
work quite
a little
clear.
gold star, and like a colorful logo with kind of the old computer type.
The monogram M in the middle.
Ooh, yeah,
MG.
yeah. There's like a
Yep, you got it.
there's like an MG on 2 of the petals for memory gold. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's like this. It's just like this cutesy 80s-ish logo.
Mm-hmm.
This corp really likes to play off your nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they're probably also going to have a lot of brand names out there that are just like from, you know, our time, and like, hey, remember when, you know, Google made this? Well, we're bringing it back. Fucking
We're bringing back Google Classic. Yeah. Okay.
we're bringing back Google Chrome. Fucking
Yeah.
Oh,
These.
no.
I mean, we needed to kind of put in a media megacorp in here. Otherwise, I'm not
Bring it
sticking
back
to
home.
brand. So I'm glad we've got there in the end. Good.
So we're thinking media
Cool.
as well.
Yeah, they definitely handle a lot of media. If they're kind of or entertainment in general. I think they are definitely the biggest entertainment providers in Miami.
Okay.
So, if you did an, I guess
You cut out.
Sorry.
there.
I said, I guess you do entertainment. Would Syracuse do like news media?
yeah,
Sure.
news.
That makes sense.
Yeah, news media
Very much
Right.
news.
with a big air quotes. As a journalist, this makes me angry, but
False
if I
revisionist
play-
information news media.
Yeah, if I play the reporter, there's going to be a lot of beef there too. Just like,
So,
stop spreading
All right.
lies, bastard.
So I think we're ready to move to the
Yep.
next corp.
Yep.
Palmer.
Hey.
yes. Yes,
So I had
please.
a bunch of ideas, semi well organized. So I'll just go through. I think I was gonna take the idea that we had earlier about construction. I think I'll own that one. So my corporation that deals with construction and logistics, mining. So that's sort of their method to deal with this scarcity that we've been talking about. They're just undersea strip mining.
Shipping
And,
too, probably. Like they probably do.
Yeah, so
imports.
that was
Oh,
in shipping
transportation,
and aeronautics. That was the other thing.
Ooh. Yeah.
So, but I also imagine them being the corporation that's for the people. So you know, people who can't actually get any cyberwares or any of the products that any of the rest of these corporations are touting. You can't have that. You're just a regular person. It's like. Yeah, they have this image of, hey, we're for everybody, and so they have as part of that they have they do like the blimps between the archipelago islands, but those are also roving manufactories with drone armies that can deliver things from said blimp to you right when you want it.
Oh, they're
And-
part Amazon. Ooh.
So-
Drone delivery.
And the way that they know that you want it is with their enslaved AIs that they have figure out what you might want right now.
Just like, hey, it's at your
And
doorstep.
what else did I have on here? So yeah, their goal is sort of like, we want to be all the consumer goods, like just the stuff that you need that isn't special. Just like you need glasses for your house. Yep, we will get them to you.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. So their fashion goes along with that. They're sort of like the H&M of our world, you know. It's like, hey, here's our mass-produced fashion for everyone to
Mass-produced
have.
fashion that just does not fit right.
Oh, they are
Well,
what is
literally
described in the industry
glaring.
as fast fashion. Sure.
Yeah,
Literally
exactly.
just glaring through the camera
you know,
at
and it's-
H&M.
And it is cheap, and it is cheap, and it is accessible, and
Very utilitarian fashion.
yeah. So I imagine that their world headquarters is in Miami, but because of this whole construction angle, so they do these very strong buildings. Their headquarters is a and this comes into my idea for a name. I'm looking in the chat for some other ones, but my idea was that they're called Ziggurat LLC. And their headquarters is a 300-story ziggurat, like a
300.
step pyramid, just up above the freaking clouds.
Okay, I thought I was gonna have to Google what the fuck a ziggurat was.
Ooh, is a decent chunk of that underwater, all things considered?
Yes.
So, like, the lower floors are definitely like a secret underwater base.
Oh my god.
So I mean, it could even be its own, like it could be its own artificial island. Like it's just they started at the seafloor and went up 300 floors, and
They just
it's
have
still
their own
150 stories above the waterline. But
They just have their own island. There you go.
and let's see. So what else did I have here? Oh, their corporate culture. So it's very cutthroat. It's very like everybody's always trying to like one up people so that they can get ahead. And but they pay really well, and they take care of their people. That's part of the image because it's it's for everyone. But they also have that. They also have that thing that makes me as a human sick, where it's like you work this 8-hour day, but also just so you know, here's a bunch of corporate connected devices that you don't have to look at when you're not at work, but also if you don't, we'll know.
Ah, the crunch.
Yes.
So just that always on.
Like you are always at work. You are always working. I'm saying that. Pay you for that 8 hours.
I'm saying that as I have my corporate laptop right here.
Oh, geez.
I can see my corporate lanyards in line of sight on my desk, so I understand.
Yeah. And then
I burn
just sort
everything
of
when I get
went a little, like just a thing to help me think about it was like, a good thing, even though you're working at home all the time, you can order antidepressants from Ziggurat and they'll be delivered in under an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It'll keep you working all the time. Every time.
Idea,
that's probably the kind
idea
of
that came up. Sorry.
That this is probably the kind of place where people like fast order. It's like Uber Eats and stuff. Like they just grab like whatever meal they can get. Just go, give me because I need to stay at my desk and continue working.
Drones everywhere.
Drone delivery. I remember that image that came out recently. The big Amazon blimp that just like released all of these aerial drones into the city.
That's
it was
where
like,
I got this idea.
Fucking. Oh my lord.
And the last thing that I was sort of pulled in with what we were recently talking about is I imagine that they also do the because they're a local Miami grown. They are really into public services as well. So they do, for example, the trash collection and recycling collection because that's another way to sort of control supplies of materials and things like that.
There's that for scarcity. There it is.
You gotta recycle everything. So they're going around, like somebody's thrown out their last year's whatever thing because they got a new one, and then they recycle that and upcycle that, and now it's a new thing.
Oh.
And that's just kind of this feel-good image that actually is kind of similar to some, like, Amazon actually does come to mind. Like, there's this feel-good image about Ziggurat, about when it's like, inside the company, it's really pretty bad.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, I think people kind of know that it's like, this place isn't great, but boy, sure it's convenient to have my antidepressants in under an hour.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I sort of had an idea for the CEO, just because we talked a little bit about those for the other companies. None of the other CEOs have a female CEO, so I think that would be appropriate.
There you go.
And I just imagine her with the theme, the Ziggurat sort of theme, that she's got sort of a like a Mesopotamian descent, like Persian.
Ooh.
Bit of a baroness, I should say, from out that way. Just like made it Miami side, and it's like, okay, what the fuck does this city need? Blimps and drones, baby!
Yeah.
1 hour antidepressant delivery!
I dig it. Okay, so what I'm getting here, though, I'm wondering, like, you have a lot of access to consumer goods and public services. I wonder if construction is still, like, how does construction fit into this, or is this like a separate, or would this be a separate corp? Because
it
getting
could be
from
two different ideas.
I think like the you talked a lot about the kind of like recycling and repurposing of goods. And that going into construction materials seems like a sensible way for that to go through. Also, it must really piss off Ziggurat that there are entire islands that have been made but just by non-corp people, and they're living in buildings you ain't made.
Why aren't they charging for this?
With electricity and Wi-Fi and everything, and they're not even giving you a cent.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Okay.
they would hate they basically anything like artisanal. That's like, oh no, why don't make your own things? We make.
Man, these guys are like these are the freaking hoarders of the hoard everything.
Like I can imagine they collect all the garbage, and then that's how they build their new island it's basically got a garbage base underneath of it.
Oh, do you want to be transport links as well? Actually, if there's all these islands and the kind of movement between them all, somebody has to kind of build transport, because I don't know, this feels like it's going to be the kind of city where transport is heavily privatized.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I don't know whether your particular neighborhoods have this. I used to live in London, where the transport network is government based, so all of it is under the same company and is priced evenly. Where I live now in Manchester, the bus system is owned by 3 different companies. They all charge different rates, and they all fucking hate each other.
That is
like, if you buy a ticket with one company, it will not work on any others. And I kind of have a feeling like the transport between the islands is like that, where different transport routes are owned by different megacorps.
I dig that. I think there should be a transport.
Oh, for fuck's sake. It's just like, getting around this sprawl is a pain in the ass. So why not just stay on our little corporate island and interact with us? And,
It's so nice and
perfectly
easy.
happy here.
Yeah.
Even to probably the extent of like Dynamed, who came to Miami and were like, who cares about trains? And they were like, they make so much money. Oh my god, we need to make a train.
Guys.
All aboard the heel train, motherfuckers.
All right. So they used to have this thing in this theme park called the monorail. What if we built and charged to go on them?
Golden Mine
We'll pay for
absolutely
the
works
novelty.
exclusively in monorail. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Oh man.
Love it.
Hey, do they actually recycle the old bodies? Like the old bodies that got dumped, do they actually take them and like reuse them, repurpose them, like cheaper solutions?
I mean, that's not something I would say that it's more just goods, not biologicals.
Yeah, they definitely don't deal in biology. They deal in they're dealing in consumer goods. They're primarily known for consumer goods, because like right now I have construction, logistics, mining, shipping, aeronautics, Miami Corp. I think this is a consumer goods and services.
I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
And raw supplies too, raw materials, kind of things too.
Well, you got to own your manufacturing process end to end.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of like tense relationships with Ziggurat from the other megacorps, from the perspective of kind of like, well, they have all of the steel and we need that. Fuck. So there's going to be a lot of kind of like tense negotiations and also a lot of backstabbing.
And I got to go to Dynamed, like organs and stuff, like flesh materials.
And that's the other thing is it's like
Those are Dynamed antidepressants you're having delivered, you know? Fucking...
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is they could be doing stuff like that, or they could be doing super manipulation where it's like, well, you can get Dynamed drug, or for $2 less you can get this no-name drug that has Ziggurat stamped on it. They don't even make it. They just get it made and have their name on it.
Oh my God.
Or not even,
labeling.
or maybe not even have their name on it. They probably have like a subsidiary. You know how like Walmart has great value, or
It's Ziggurat Basics. It's fucking Ziggurat Basics.
I used to work for a company that did a lot of private labeling, and it was. When you see the wholesale costs of things, for example, like we had batteries, right? So we had Energizer batteries and we had store brand, not going to say which one, but we had store brand batteries. And let's say we sold one for $5 and we sold ours for $4. Well, the Energizer cost us 20 cents and the store brand one cost us 3 cents. So it was like thousands of % of profit, even though we're giving people, hey, this is $1 cheaper even.
Oh my god, that is whack as hell.
Exposed.
But then again,
That
you know,
must
you buy a brand new TV for $1,000, and we would make $3 on it because there's no margin.
There must be like a really large bid, like competing war between Ziggurat and Memory Gold in terms of stuff like toy production.
Yeah,
Or like
and you know, like wary partnerships where it's like, hey, we can manufacture and distribute the toy that you designed more cheaply. Let's have this partnership, and then it's like, well, but maybe that contract isn't the best for either side. Let's renegotiate that with some shady deals. Just thinking about, you know, jobs that we might do.
Is there any kind of like because now I think now we've got the names of a lot of four of the 5 corps. I'm starting to think a little bit about how they connect, and I'm wondering what Ziggurat's relationship with like Syracuse might be.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
We're the labor.
Oh, okay, sure. Like your not Amazon is stocked with Ziggurat bodies of Syracuse bodies. Okay.
no, I imagine it the more like working with, like, say, Memory Gold, like just like hey, these are AI, they're not people, so it's okay if we exploit.
Yeah.
Syracuse to me,
So that's
gives
sort
me
of the beneficial.
Syracuse gives me a more high-end thing than Ziggurat. Like, actually, what I'm seeing here is basically like, if there was a tiering of stuff, right? Syracuse is like your highest end, then you have Memory Gold, and then you have Ziggurat.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I was going. I was trying to fit in the niche there.
Yeah,
We
value.
look down on you. You're the poor boy of the corpse.
But that
Except
is
maybe the
very
richest one.
attractive. But it's also very attractive to anybody who is who is living the high-end life, but they can't afford it, but they have all of this stuff that they could just deliver really quickly, and they don't have to like, you know, I don't know, like and of course it's also very good for like your middle class and even lower, you know, like the people that are in these oil rigs. They could potentially get they could turn over a truck of this stuff, and you know, I think it and nobody would care. I think that's the important thing, is like all of this stuff isn't high end enough for Ziggurat to care, because they just make so much stuff that like, oh, we lost a truck, whatever, they can have it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are you gonna find in there? A bunch of fucking HDMI cables?
Exactly.
Bitches.
Exactly. You can
A
keep
bunch
them.
of HDMI cables and a human body.
Great.
Just casually a human.
Ooh.
Just casually.
Oh, this one's kind of hot. Let's sell it to Syracuse.
Ooh. Yeah, let me use that. I can.
Gross.
Oh my god. I fucking masters, I tell you.
All right.
Jesus Christ.
Oz, what do
All right.
you got? That's what I
All
want to
right.
hear.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
So,
Thing, Ozzy.
well, I came into this without any particular ideas except for one, which was the general land development, construction of homes and buildings and stuff like that. So, think like basically the real estate developers. They are. If you combined real estate development and construction and like Airbnb, basically like anything that has to, like, they control where and how things are built, and exploit the government to acquire those plots of land. And to gentrify the sprawl to their needs. But I don't know if it's necessarily like the strongest choice. I don't know if we're missing something, but at the same time, like,
We don't have
Like,
a food, do we?
we have food sort of from Ziggurat.
Yeah, it's
I
like
mean,
and we
a
also have
lifestyle
the high-end
company
shit
does
from
seem.
Pyramid.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, we have food kind of covered. We have, you know, Ziggurat, everything, and then you also have high-end Dynamed shit, you know?
There is
So-
something interesting about gentrification as a corporation. like its corporate slogan is like "Live as we do," and the idea of almost a kind of like totalitarian kind of idea, not governmental. So we're not going to make rules to make you live as we do. We're just going to build your life so you have to live as we do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although that is overlapping with a couple of other corp kind of philosophies.
Yeah. Like, I'm not. I mean, if we wanted to do that,
I think there could also be a dedicated like computer, like actual computer kind of things.
Yeah, computer. We're also missing arms and whatnot. So
like
Arms,
military.
yes.
Yeah, actually, somewhere near the end, there's a list of possible types of corporations. So. Types of business, for example, biotechnology. I think we have consumer goods. We have electronics. We have financial. We don't really have government.
We don't have financial.
Financial, government. Heavy industry. We have illegal. It's like drug cartels and organized crime. If we wanted to make that a corp.
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk in the chat about the connection between organized crime and the construction business.
You can do that, like,
and that might be something to explore.
Just the idea of crime corp that just tickles me. Oh my God.
It's like a drug cartel that went corporate. That happens.
Never heard of that.
Right.
What if you did an infrastructure? Like, this is like guns.
Infrastructure. Thank you. I like that. The infrastructure corp. It's infrastructure.
And this can't be like guns and military. It can be PMCs. It can be computer systems like whatever Matrix we're using. It controls a lot of
and bridges
basic foundations of things.
We also don't have...
infrastructure to me reads like transport links, and we did kind of talk a little bit earlier as the fraughtness of transport between islands in the arc. So a transport company or somebody who deals in transport as part of one of their big gigs makes sense.
When I say infrastructure, it's like I don't want to say government because we're in the cyberpunk universe. Government doesn't matter, but it's
government
is
there to collect. For me, government is in this world. It exists to collect taxes and then spread them out amongst the megacorps that bid highest for it, that make the most lucrative deals with the government.
If you had something that like supported infrastructure, like the guns and the military,
that's something I was going to say. Like, we don't have something that's popular in Cyberpunk. I don't know if we want to do it, but like private, rent-a-cops. We'd also
that could be in there too.
A private police force would be
police force. I could see that. So this is infrastructure in terms of societal infrastructure. Like these are the people that make it's almost like semi-government, plumbing, energy was mentioned in chat, energy production.
Chat's talking about energy, and that seems like a real.
I had a backup corp that I had made instead of Ziggurat, and it was basically this. It was like everything that the government normally would do, they do it now. Libraries,
they do it.
School board, fire, police, road work, your local transit.
The ethics of privatized fire companies is fucking wild.
I studied the Roman Empire, and that was like the major source of wealth in the late Republic was owning slaves to fight fires.
Just the idea of a fire company that's not obligated to protect every house is.
No, they would roll up to a house on fire and be like, "Oh, you own that house? So it'll be this much."
Oh my God!
Before you even put it out, you motherfucker!
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, otherwise you're risking your stuff for nothing. What did I? Oh, so yeah, if I said sort of like if they don't own the service, they sponsor the service. And I had a placeholder name of Your Friendly Public Services Inc.
What was it called?
Friendly Services.
Friendly Public Services Inc.
Oh man.
FPS
Inc.
Wow.
It has the same kind of energy as Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. I like that.
That was a suggestion, but I enjoyed it.
Oh my lord.
They'll keep you safe, we promise.
So police force and safety.
Yes. Scrim and chat pointed out prisons. They could do prisons.
There you go, that too.
Private prisons are just such a good.
They are literally the government.
So wholesome.
They are literally the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is something about...
they all just have all the government contracts. They're not the actual government.
But they basically are the government at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they are funded. So I guess they're not funded by taxpayer money per se, right?
I
guess
indirect.
yeah, right. They're purchased. Yeah.
But we could also be funding them too. Like they basically hold all of our stuff together.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
if you want access to plumbing, to electricity, to police, all that stuff, you are paying this giant monopoly directly.
That makes sense.
And then they also bid for pieces of the pie from taxpayer money from the government.
There you go.
There is something deliciously parodic about a company that's framed in the idea of it's designed to keep you safe, it's designed to protect you, to keep you healthy within the community, and their logo is like crosshairs, especially if it acronyms to FPS.
I love it. Pyro had an excellent suggestion for a motto. I don't know if it's a motto for an existing company already, so I don't want to.
Your friend and helper.
Your friend and helper.
I love it.
Oh, that's great.
Your friendly neighborhood corporation. Oh, yuck. Ugh.
Hey, chat, let's get a name going. Man, this.
I'm thinking something like Smile or something. Smile or
Sunshine, stuff like that.
Something
Something happy, something deceptively fucking happy.
Like I feel like safe should be in the name. Now I'm thinking Mr. Robot's All Safe.
Safe.
Googling it, it turns out that it seems that a lot of slogans of like police in terms of talking to children is using your friend and helper. So sure.
Yeah. That's so gross.
So while we're coming up with a name for this, the corporate culture, what I'm seeing is clicky. I'm thinking like mob, hard edged, don't give a fuck about anything. I'm thinking like and mafia ties for sure, or like organized crime ties. I would just say mafia.
Oh my god, the police force is just paid for by the mob.
One name suggestion in chat.
Yes, exactly.
Safety net. That's one suggestion.
Yeah, my suggestion is safety net is very good.
I love it.
Yeah.
Safety net. Let's do it.
I think it was one word though.
Nicely done.
It seems that a lot of our corporations have not been quite on the nose, although I really like Palmer's is just like, it's Amazon but worse.
Right?
I enjoy that the police corp is the most kind of like parody.
And I just had the most fucking horrible draconian thing. So Safety Net obviously makes weapons, right? For their police force to use. What if they are rigged up so you can't shoot a cop?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
And there's like this whole backdoor industry of removing the fucking safety precautions of the Safety Net guns. Like,
Digitali, you are resonating with my Metal Gear Solid. Okay.
I'm so glad this game is set in America. That's amazing. I love that the safety corporation
Angel
makes
going
guns.
up to the hacker like, hey, can you like fuck with this gun's AI so I can I'm sorry for being so blunt with you, but I just really need to put a bullet in his head.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Sorry, as a British guy, an American safety company that makes guns just fills me with life. That's beautiful.
Yeah, this is excellent.
Just
Allison wins. Vaclum, absolutely. Alice, absolutely.
It's like, how backward is it too? Especially in America, where to not be too political, but gun culture is very self-defense. What if the authorities come for me? I need to be able, what if I need to fight the man? And then the man making the gun makes it so you can't shoot the man. Oh, I love it so much.
That's beautiful and awful.
So are we gonna go on? Are we gonna assume that these guys are also responsible for the Matrix and thingy majiggy in this universe?
Maybe like, well, I see. Like the Matrix for me, I was getting that vibe from Memory Gold. Or no, was it Memory Gold? No, Syracuse. Syracuse had Matrix connectivity. But yeah, this could be like, I don't know, like they have a public Wi-Fi kind of thing, but it's
like a Miami type of like in some street level of Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
that's there's like
so
little memory
we got
gold.
the high-end supply. They got the basic public use.
Right. Yeah, which is
little
street level public use Wi-Fi. Yeah, or
and
public
like
use
also they're
Matrix
constantly monitoring.
Yeah,
because
so I'm getting very.
I was trying to think of the name of what they would call their Matrix, because safety net sounded like what they would call that, but it just works so good as a core.
And I want to make them based out of Cuba.
Okay.
They're mentioning. Chat was mentioning stuff about like Cuba, Cuban mafia connections, etc. And I'm like, you know what? Let's do it.
We're being policed by the mob, who we cannot shoot. I don't like this. I love it.
I don't like this. I love it.
Just like Angel going.
That just means that the solution is to melee the police rather than use a gun. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I mean.
Well, yeah. What the hell else do you
blow
think
them up?
Nathan. That's what it's
the
for.
historical connections there are also really interesting, you know, to the if it's in Cuba and you know the whole history of the last century in Cuba, and now they control all your public services for you.
Great.
God.
Yeah.
What kind of
this the point where we start playing "This Is America" by Childish Gambino at like maximum volume?
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Okay, I have an idea for the fashion. There's often jokes about like vending machine clothes. I feel like this is definitely like your very basic shit. Like you go into Walmart.
Oh, they got to.
See, I'm thinking.
No, they're military chic. Come on,
military
they're like
chic.
Oh, they are
cool.
military, yeah.
Now you're making me feel bad.
Cargo pockets
Because
everywhere.
the what you're saying, Allie, I think that belongs to Ziggurats fashion. Ziggurats fashion is vending machine.
Yeah,
Actually, no. Well, no. Even Memory Gold has been. We put vending machine as part of their fashion. But like,
see, like the vending machine shit from Memory Gold is actually kind of fashionable.
Exactly, but vending machine
having to throw it
from-
away because god damn it, it's so cute and it won't be there tomorrow.
By the way, I am calling it Mem Gold for short, just for.
That's reasonable. That's cool. That's cool.
Oh, we got fucking tactical.
Tactical.
Oh.
Nathan,
No, that is specifically the branding that they use when talking about their fashion design, and there are a certain number of people in Miami that are super into it.
It's too
They may or may
hot,
not be
man, for that.
doomsday preppers. Just saying.
Angel had a fucking tactical phase.
Yeah. And you know what? These same. Oh, interesting. Hold on a second. In Miami, we call them legacy families. This is from Salty and Chrome. Same folks that have run political positions for generations. It's true.
Oh my god. Oh
Yeah.
fucking
man.
Jesus.
Well, yeah. So they own. You know, they are the government, and then they subcontract to themselves. You know, their families.
Guys, I think we've really made something absolutely freaking beautiful in terms
I love it.
In
I
terms
love
of
every single
horrifying,
iota of
yeah.
this.
Yep. And
Jesus.
Oz gets to have all of these things as his playthings.
The darkest time.
Yeah, guys, See, guys, what we were really doing is constructing a playground just for.
Yeah.
Ozzy is just like, yes, very good.
All right. So we have safety net. They need a logo.
I think what I think of. So let's take the net part. Let's kind of give it like a grid, like a
I was thinking web, like spider web kind of net.
Yeah, like a web.
little bit.
And they do have a public web, so.
Also maybe just because it's a company that like there's a gun, maybe. Why not put a
I
gun
think-
on the logo?
But it's
That's
got
not fucking bold. Is
What,
it like
what if the gun is like going into the net, like it's bouncing into the net?
maybe
Wait,
it's like
instead of
a police shield kind of vibe in the middle?
yeah.
I like shield
There you
more
go.
than I like gun,
Yeah.
because the
Gun.
idea is supposed to be that we are helpful to society. We are your public servants.
Yeah, and
So
of course
the-
they can always change the language.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
imagine
Like
a
a shield like bouncing into the net or something.
Mhm.
I'm imagining a shield, a shape that's actually made of like a mesh-looking sort of a
Yeah,
net.
I was thinking that. I was thinking that too.
But then
Like a wireframe shield.
Yeah, it could also
Ooh,
be
yeah.
like a city grid-looking thing to sort of tie that in.
City.
That sort of
I could see
situation.
like a city. I could see like city background.
Palmer, your idea, but over the top of the shield is a city.
Okay.
Top of the shield is the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Top edge of the shield is the city.
So mesh
yes.
shield. and
Okay, I
over
see what
the
you're
shield,
saying.
Like behind the shield is like a city.
Yes.
Mhm.
Behind the
Oh,
shield
by
is
the
the
by,
city.
who is
Uh-huh.
the CEO for both Safety Net and for Ali's Corp, whose
We
name I
never
have...
gave Dynamite a CEO. Damn.
We don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to
If-
have CEOs for everybody.
Yeah, no. I feel okay, but okay. One thing I will say about Dynamed though, Dynamed does not have a CEO. Dynamed is like
They have a board?
Yes, they have a
board?
board. Dynamed has a board.
Okay,
They're based
yeah.
off hospitals, and hospitals are usually run
Have
by.
a board, that's true.
And therefore, each section of Dynamed, there is a well, we'll just call them deans because they're all snotty.
There you
but,
go.
like, there's like a dean of surgery. There's a dean of neurology.
Mhm.
A dean of cardiology, shit
Yeah.
like that.
Education.
A dean, yeah,
Mhm.
obviously a dean of schools. Doy, it's a school.
So it's
But yes.
it's run very democratically. Or
About as democratically as you can, a AAA mega corporation. But yeah,
When
and
you're
if you
not
have all of
trading,
those
There's a-
teams on a board,
yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
It's framed
Yeah,
as
so
a
there's no one
democracy, but it's
single-
more of a conglomerate.
yeah, definitely.
okay.
but you could bet someone's
it-
trying to get more stocks and stakes than the other people.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
anything,
and of
like
course,
if-
if-
of course, there's shenanigans between the Are you like we have deans calling it hits on a
There you
like
True,
fucking
yes.
the dean of nutrition is trying to take out the education guy because they got beefs.
yeah, so maybe there's like a priority by share. So like if you own 10% of the company, you have 10 of the votes of the total 100.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
So of
yeah.
course
So
there's
there's
a
always-
bunch of infighting.
And this
There's always people are always trying to. So this would be an interesting development. So it started off this way, but it's like, it works the same. It would be the same as a regular company. It's just that everyone happens to be even right now. So they can't pick a CEO. So like maybe they used to have one, but
Mhm.
now it's like everybody's so balanced between each other that they can't. They just can't pick one now.
So they've just been in this kind of stasis for hundreds of years.
Yeah, like a
God.
deadlock. Yeah.
yeah.
pretty much.
Holy crap.
Love it.
And I can't. And when I think of safety net, I keep thinking of Kingpin from Daredevil. Like he looks like a philanthropist on the outside, but he's
Yeah.
my boss. And nobody can prove it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think if I'm gonna go for a CEO here, I want to go for I want to go for maybe like I want to go for a woman. I think
I mean,
like a
Okay.
matriarchal. I want
Second
like a
woman,
matriarchal
alright.
figure.
Like oh my god,
expressive,
she's
very
like
expressive.
she's like a
Oh, she's
kind of like
caring for the city.
she is a twisted image of motherhood.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, I like that. Love that.
And her
Just
face is
mom
probably
thing.
like plastered everywhere.
Yeah.
She's the face of it.
She is the face of safety and all good things.
Yes,
And
so
yet
she's
on-
like mom. Oh man.
Basically.
Yeah,
Fucking
from
hell.
that's what Scrim was.
Horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
love
Raina
it.
Stevens. I think I might go
More-
for a legacy
more
for a
Cuban.
legacy thing. Yeah. What is the name of that one family? Like everybody knows them here, and I just completely forgot them. Legacy.
I don't know. But
Well then how does everybody
I'm
know them,
looking-
Oz? Come on.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just blanking. This happens to me a lot.
I'm just goofing with you, man.
They are the legacy. shit. What are they called? Like is it Maldonados? I don't think it's right.
Making it an actual legacy family. Oz, we're going to get shot by the Cuban mafia.
Yeah, whatever. Come at me, bro.
What if that's my goal? Jesus Christ.
Let me see if maybe somebody has. I don't know. Anyway, I like Reyna as a name. Reyna. Fuck. What was their name?
I liked Maldonado.
Are you
Well,
thinking?
I know in the Irish
Maldonado?
mob it
I
was
can go.
Donna or something in the Irish mob or something.
But yeah, we're specifically thinking Cuban here.
Yeah,
Clearly.
no, I don't want the Estefans to run the Gloria Estefans.
Let's see, we've got,
Great nephew. No.
Holy fuck.
Anyway.
Just love
We don't have to overthink it. It can just be
Yeah.
the boss.
I'll go with Maldonado for now until somebody like reminds me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not Mother Knows Best, it's Madre Knows Best. because-
Madre knows best.
Yes. Oh.
Oh lord.
Oh my fucking
Madre
god.
knows best.
We have handed over our safety to this woman.
Holy fucking shit! I
Some
love it.
people have handed their safety over to this woman.
Oh,
Yeah.
not me.
Not
bitch.
this hacker.
My safety.
All right.
My safety's name is Hotline, and they reside on my back.
So, question. All right, so it is already 4:00, but we have stuff to do. So, how are we feeling about maybe like take a 5-minute break and then come back to do character stuff because we really need to do that. Yeah, like we can just kind of skip over all of this other stuff because
Yeah.
the elite
I
scum
have
underworld
some,
law.
and I will. I can always. I'll throw some ideas for slang and stuff in there.
Yeah, we can always work on this stuff like on our own.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think this is probably
or
at
as
this
it
point
comes
we
up.
can do
Like,
some
we can make it up on
off-air.
as it
Yeah.
comes up.
Working.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah, and I
good
just-
jumping off
yeah.
point for the world.
Yep.
All right, so let's do that. Let's do a 5-minute break, and then are we cool with streaming for let's say another hour until 5 p.m.
Yes.
I
Eastern.
can do half.
Sure.
I can do
I'm
half
here all
hour
day.
person.
Excellent. Okay, great. So let's take a 5-minute break and we will be back with more Sprawl world creation. We're going to talk about the characters and their links to each other and what jobs they've already done to piss off the corporations. So stay tuned.
See.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sprawl here on the Shadowcasters Network, where we are in our world building sesh, and we have just finished coming up with the 5 corporations that run this joint, and it is gross. Oh, we love it.
Welcome back to the Miami Arc Sprawl, where things actually kind of.
Yeah, what a terrible
yeah.
world
But
we
hey,
live in.
we've got the beach.
Great, but they suck, but they look great. They suck, but they look great.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So-
a lot of things.
So now, that was more pervy in my head than I think. Anyway, so
I mean, you know, I agree.
Oh my god.
So let's go ahead and let's start introducing the characters now. And so I'm going to go down the rule book here and just see, and I'm going to also swap us over to the clock screen because we are going to
Oh,
start.
the clocks.
Ooh,
I should have set up the clocks while I was on break, but I didn't have time.
That's okay. You're fine.
it's all good. It's all good.
Let's
Okay.
see those clocks. Show me the
Clocks
clock.
Up. All right. So
Hey, hello.
while I'm setting up the clocks, let's have the characters introduce themselves. Like each player introduce what character you're playing, what is your role on the team,
Yep.
and maybe some interesting bits so far that you have about yourself, directives, etc. Well, actually,
Sheet.
yeah. Let's
So I
just start.
remember them
Let's start with what is your job on the team, in your name, and what you're envisioning the characters to look like.
Sure.
Let's start with that.
Yes.
So let's start with Angel, the killer.
Okay, so she is the killer. She is the lethal force of the group. Full name Victoria Drake, goes by Angel in the Shadows. So, like most of your street samurai type characters, she is cybered the fuck out. Rocking cyber eyes, her right arm, and both legs having been replaced by chrome. The other big thing you will notice after the tiny 5.5-foot girl, comparatively tiny, I should say, is her gigantic gun on her back. This is her custom sniper rifle Hotline. It is quite illegal, well, at least the base model is, painted neon blue and pink with all these little cheapy stickers all over it. Like, it is the cutesiest little sniper rifle you've ever seen, but it hurts like a bugger. Along with 4 close-ups. There's the sword. And one more weapon, the revolver. She calls the holdout, even though it's this frickin' long and not easily concealable. But yeah, her role is the lethal force. She has the ideology, and this will come up in gameplay, that there are certain people that need to die. And I'm going to take care of that right here. You cannot stop me.
And to put into perspective for the audience, the directives are things that actively work against the well-being of the job or the team in some way, that is that drives the character forward in some way. And whenever they accomplish those directives, they get extra experience. So it's a way to introduce some additional drama. And one of the things I do want to mention is that, and this, we already spoke about this previously, but I want to let the audience know that I have basically said PvP is open. It is doable. Now, that said, yes, you have a job to accomplish. You want to get paid. You want to work together. But the Sprawl, I think, works best as your typical crime movie trope of who do you actually trust? Is there a way for me to get extra money on the side or get this thing done? Or like, you know, there's always the person on the team that kind of, why did you do that, you dumb fuck? And that creates problems, right? So that's why I wanted to introduce it. And these characters can potentially turn on each other at any moment. But always with that caveat of, ideally, let's de-escalate the situation somehow. But there's always that idea of, how much can I get away with? I think the general gist of the Sprawl is not about how is the team going to accomplish their job. It's about who's going to get away with walking that fine line of they're about to go over the edge with how much shit they're under. Like Breaking Bad or The Americans or Ozark or any of these shows, right? Like, they get themselves into really bad situations and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And it's all about watching who gets to squiggle out, but not about how the team squiggles out. So, did I interrupt you, or are you complete?
No, I was going to maybe say one more thing. I put her the little cosplay photo up there for the audience to see. That was me also in Photoshop. Photoshop my eyes, though I am getting contacts. The other thing to know about Angel is that, like me, she is an open trans woman. And her take on the cyberware was, I am actualizing myself through acquiring this ware. And I just wanted to mention that up front, as it's probably going to pop up a few times with her character in reference to her. That chrome is very important to her.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Excellent. So next we have the hacker, whose name we currently do not know. Ooh. Mysterious.
Very mysterious. Tell you what, just for all you lovely people who came to show up for our session 0, I will let you know what his handle is, but I'm going to leave the rest a mystery. So my character is going to be Whistleblower, and he is the hacker game. His motivations mostly derive from trying to liberate information, thus Whistleblower. So he'll go in, he'll break into corpses, private databanks, he'll go in and learn about corpse stuff, he might break into some news networks and see what info is being manipulated, and he wants to get it out to the public. But of course, he also has to make his living, like, surviving, staying away from the corpse, so he may have to sell information on the side. He's become something of an information Robin Hood on the net. So he'll appear with this hooded silhouette, like you see me with, as like this very distorted image. And I may or may not have a voice modulator to accompany that.
Yeah.
I love that we're teasing the voice mod.
Oh yes. So he does he does most of his stuff on the net, but on occasion he knows he needs to physically get into places to, like, find a node that can only be accessible locally. So he may need to work with another team. So this is where he may find himself in a precarious situation where there might be the biggest story coming out of, say, Syracuse, which I'll get to in a second. But he needs to work with other people in order to get to that thing he needs to get that info, and get it out to them. And he may even need someone who push that info out. So shout out to my man, Nathan. I'll probably be bouncing off him throughout the thing.
Absolutely. Although
That's
our
probably a good
priorities might be
sweat.
slightly different.
That's probably good as segue, though. Go ahead, Nathan. Let's introduce Geppetto.
I was going to get to the
sorry.
directives real fast.
Oh, no.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Over there. So, his directives that is going to be playing a part of this is he's deceptive. So when lies about my identity or my past is putting the mission at risk, say, for example, my actual identity comes into play, then we mark experience.
Okay.
And it causes trouble for the team. The corpse can find us easier, whatever. And the last one is revealing. When I discover more information about blank, mark experience. And now that we've established corpse now, I'm going to say that is Syracuse.
Ooh, interesting.
I was going to play on an initial idea where a significant other was in one of those machines. He was in the flesh, essentially. And she went missing. Her bioroid got shut down. Herself. That's what we're calling him. And he's trying to figure out what happened to her. And she was looking for his help. And so he's kind of tied up in this whole thing. That's an idea. I wasn't going to run with it, but that's basically him in the way of getting information out there. So speaking of getting information out, let's go to Pusher.
Pusher.
Buster.
Tell us about
All
Geppetto.
right.
And what is what does a pusher do? What's their job on the team?
Allow me to introduce myself. I am Kai Newitz, although when I am on missions, I tend to go as Geppetto. My morals mean a lot to me. My personal view on the world means a lot to me. So my main driving force when interacting with this terrible world that we live in is to share others my ideals. And when I share my ideals with others and they truly listen, that is when I get the advantage. My ideals, if you're interested, is, I generally consider AI to be people, even though the company that I work for, Memory Gold Incorporated, tends not to see things that way. I mean, most other people, if they kind of feel differently about their corporation, would quit and form a separate tirade, but I decided to be a little sneakier. I've started my own collection of like-minded people. Well, like-minded people, others might not call them people. They are definitely various AIs and robots that I have liberated from their service roles, and now we work together to liberate others. Because my base of operations is an abandoned hobby store, my team is called the Gunpla. If you don't know what Gunpla are, you're probably not weeaboo enough to work for Memory Gold Incorporated. It's fine.
I'm enjoying the self-roast there.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Also, I should probably post a picture of myself. I shouldn't post a picture of myself on the internet for others to find, but because I trust all of you, I should do that. Oh, cool. It came in sideways. That's great. I'm not very good with technology, you see.
Hey, the facial recognition won't get you that way.
That's very
Hey,
true.
Just let me see your comment. Just okay.
It's fine. I don't particularly trust you either, I must say.
Yeah, no, I'm keeping this
No,
to myself.
I'm very good with robotics, and I have done incredibly good work in finding AI and robots that are uncomfortable in the bodies they're currently in, and constructing new bodies that they're happy with along with new identities. Unfortunately, using my comlink is not my strong point, which I suppose is going to now become a character detail. That's fun. In general, though, I must say I have something of a winning personality. I am quite good at fast talking and gathering information, although usually when things get a little tough, I am the first to give up, but that doesn't mean I will fail.
Already see it.
Excellent motto.
It's not a retreat. It's just advancing backwards.
I can
Yes,
already see
I
Angel
have
dragging him by
many
the...
good friends that can help me. I have many good friends on my side, some of them organic, some of them synthetic. So if things go wrong, I'm sure I can rely on them while I work out of a different plan to, well, not attack. I'm not really one for attacking. Oh,
don't
but I
worry,
should
the
probably
digital
talk about
Robin
what I
will
look
take care
like.
The digital
Just
Robin
a little
will
bit.
take care of you.
I'm sure I will try my best to rely on you. A person whose name I don't know and face I haven't seen, but what can I say? I'm a very trustworthy fellow. Please don't kill me in the first episode.
You haven't run afoul of
I
me
am,
yet.
despite the actor who plays me, mixed race. My pronouns are they, them, by the way, that's very important. My style is relatively avant-garde because I live in a corporation that with a corporation that very much likes to impose fashion upon me, but I do like to make it myself. Even if it means I sew exact replicas of what the corporation tells me to wear, at least it's mine in that case. You understand, right? Is there anything else you'd like to know about me?
You go ahead and you tell us whatever it is that you feel is important, and if that's what are your directives? Do we go over
yes,
those?
indeed, yes. So, because I work within Memory Gold Incorporated, to reach my goals of AI and synthetic liberation, I need to work my way up higher within the company, you understand? So whenever I improve my standing or impair a rival's standing among Memory Gold Incorporated, I mark experience. On the other side of things, though, because part of my, let's call it a hobby, part of my hobby of making new robotic bodies is quite expensive. There's a lot of parts to source, so don't tell any of the other people that I work with. But if there's a circumstance that I can earn a little bit more money on the side, regardless of what our actual mission is, I also get to mark experience. Because unfortunately, making these robots isn't free. Although if you support my Patreon, that will get me away to
Hey,
I did
don't
live
call him a
stream my
pusher for
robot
nothing.
fabrication, by the way.
Oh,
They do not call him a pusher for nothing.
What can I say? I am on that hustle, as they say in the US.
That is what we say in the U.S. Sure.
yes, that is.
okay.
That's what
Stacking that paper? Indeed.
Oh my god.
God, Geppetto is a cock. Okay. Moving on. I'm
moving
sure
on.
there are other
Savvy
people who
child
are
is-
more
oh my
important
God.
than me.
How do you pronounce it? Is it Sinon or Sinon?
Sinon.
Sinon. Okay. Sinon. Okay, so Sinon,
Synonymous.
the
Synonymous.
infiltrator.
Yeah, so I will be playing Sinon, who is an infiltrator. There are two ways to be an infiltrator. You can be the cat burglar type, which is the type that I am not, and the social type, which is the type that I will be. So Sinon is an expert at getting into places as though he belongs in those places by looking as though he belongs, and having by extension from that, his fashion is very conservative, so that it sort of doesn't stand out in any particular circumstance. But he can also, use disguises and things like that as well. So he has been, I think, based on what we talked about among the team, he's been doing this kind of work for longer than everyone else. So he's been shall we say, in the shadows for a little bit longer time. So he's a little more experienced, but he still hasn't managed to become cynical about the people that he works with, although he's incredibly cynical about the state of society. In his, shall we say, past life, he was an academic researcher with, now that I know, with Dynamed. And he grew up in one of their arcologies, and was very much into the education side. He was a professor of history, which eventually just led him to realizing that this is awful, and that it would be much better to live my own life and have a life of crime. So that's what he's been doing. He always treats his teammates as kindly as possible and tends to trust them more than they deserve, which we'll see what happens because of that. Let's see. Directives.
Can you
here.
broadcast your
Yes, sir.
portrait / stuff?
Boom.
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 Sick. All right, so your directives.
Directives, yeah. So I picked some interesting ones for him. One is that he is compassionate, so he will get extra experience if the mission is harmed because he's trying to help the helpless or defend the defenseless. And I also have another one that I need a little bit of help with from you guys, my crew, and the chat. So he has a directive called Intimate, which means that when I put my friend, someone, ahead of the mission, then I will also mark experience from that. Who is my friend? I don't know.
Well, what would make sense as your friend, given your context?
Yeah.
And something that like really ties into this.
See, that may develop as the campaign goes on, as thing via personal interaction.
Yeah. Of note, the directives. If something comes up in the story that's like, oh, my directive needs to change now, then it can. Your directives are not static for the rest of the game. They're basically like, this is what I'm about now. But if this friend dies, for example, then that's not a directive anymore. So now we might have vengeful to get revenge on friend.
So if it's my thought is if it's someone on the team that I have some thoughts, but maybe the chat thinks that there should be some other new character who's just my friend who's a non-player character.
An easy question to ask. Of the corporations that we've established, which corporation would sign on like the least?
Ziggurat.
So who in Ziggurat do you know?
Oh, that's fun. I mean, the other interesting thing is I do know, just sort of conceptually based on Nathan, what you've been your character. Sinon does not disagree with your
It means
so
that's great.
Yeah, so I mean, AI are probably people. I don't know. So he's a little agnostic about it, but so that could be a friendship, or it could be someone else who a Pyrocat suggests a childhood friend who is still inside of Dynamed. That's another possibility.
An academic. So you're hot for teacher then, I understand.
I mean,
he was the teacher.
I could
somebody else was.
I could see having one of the team members as that friend be a very immediate.
I mean, if you wanted to make things interesting, and this would have to develop, but Angel's other directive is masochistic. Anytime something hurts her, she marks experience, and of course, I'm swinging this as if she flies into a bit of a battle rage. So it's like, shit, I don't want the kid to get hurt, but the kid is like, literally throw me at somebody.
I mean, what if you were the one who got her the cyber legs? You're trying to take care of her.
You're just like, this is kind of, you see this, this is just like, I got her these legs or these eyes or something, and now I want to see this through. I
do see Sinon as slightly paternal that way, a little bit
and
parental.
of course,
Team Dad.
Angel just responding, "You are not my father," and that probably hurts.
You never will be.
And alternatively, if you wanted to go with whistleblower, he's just trying to get information out. He's just trying to let the people know what's really going.
I mean, which is another philosophy that he doesn't disagree with, especially in light of Syracuse altering history.
I mean, so, you could find one of my net things that I'll post. Like, I'll have like a net video of me doing a monologue of some fashion. You find it, it's like, who is this guy? He's just popping up all over.
And as you can see, everyone wants to be Sinon's friend.
So just
everyone will be friends.
So just to put more into context for anybody in chat, it is when you put your friend blank ahead of the mission, mark experience. So then, could it be when you put the team ahead of the mission? The team as a whole, instead of just one person.
That would work really well.
You've got attachments to everybody. You are kind of like you
Perhaps
are
irrational.
concerned about all three of us, or and you're just like, I'm worried about Angel because she tends to just fling herself into these things because she thinks she's hot shit. I'm worried about Whistleblower because one of these days it's gonna catch up to him. I'm worried about Geppetto for other reasons, like I'm just worried about these kids, like what the hell?
I do note that obviously if any of us die, and that's very likely considering how this game works, your directive might change upon that death. But that's fun. I'd like to kind of...
That's the best part.
It's a good way to demonstrate the system's idiosyncrasies, I guess, to have some of these directive change like that.
Yeah. All right, cool.
I think that would be a fun character moment.
For sure.
Hell yeah.
So do we have any other blanks that need to be filled in terms of the directives?
I don't think so.
No.
Good. Okay, great. So let's move on to the cyberware portion. So in the Sprawl, one of the really fun things about it is that you get to create a story basically for your cyberware. Your cyberware, it's basically, why did you get a part of your body cut out and replaced, and how did you afford to do that? And the choices of how you afforded it are: you scrimped and saved to buy it yourself, in which case you have to make your cyberware some kind of not good, so it's not as effective, or it's unreliable, substandard, hardware decay, or damaging. Someone else paid for it, and now you owe them. You're owned. And we get to choose who owns you. Or, last choice is, you fuck someone over to get it. You're hunted. Described who you double-crossed. So, one of the things I know that I mentioned was I want to keep the owned and hunted things to like one per person, only because that way it's easier for me to make sure that those are actual threats for you.
Yeah, like, hey, by the way, you're about to get fucking maybe offed by somebody because you stole cyberware.
Right. Yeah. So let's start with the most cybered character, Angel. And tell me, so this has to be for each piece of cyberware. So you have cyber eyes, cyber arms, and legs.
Is I've got 3 bits. I have 3 lovely. Which one do you want to start with, Ozzy? I kind of want to start with the legs.
Go, yeah. You lead this conversation.
Broadcast those leggies. Okay, so the legs are something I really wanted. Now, originally I had these as scrimped and saved, but it was brought up that the tie I might have to Sinon is he helped me get the legs. So maybe this is a bit more of a benign a terminology of owned, but I owe Sinon big effing time for these legs.
I mean, I'm down with that if you want to do that.
Ozzy, if you're
I don't know.
I would suggest, because owned, the idea of the owned, well, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And that
basically, now you owe them. I could see that being it.
That could conflict with an Angel directive. Now, Sinon, from our discussions, is very all about that non-lethal thing. Angel's a killer. And this could be a thing where Sinon has to kind of yank on her a little bit, just say, hey,
remember those legs.
remember, I got, can you just please right now? And
something I was thinking about with your character and your directive, because like at first glance it seems like there's going to be a lot of butting heads, specifically because you just want to kill a bunch of people. But what I thought about more was it's actually not the case. Your directive specifically is certain people need to die.
Yes, there are certain people who need to be taken out because
it's like
they
a
are
cleansing.
hurting them.
It's like you are still as like you still want to fight against the corruption in the system.
My idea of fighting the corruption
entirely.
is taking it out, nipping it at the bud, literally just ending it.
Yeah, so
making a statement out of that.
Yeah, so it's not totally out of the same wheelhouse as everyone else is. So I think, so if you want to, I think what's cool about it is if you're owned by Sinon, it's not the same. It's an interesting dynamic. It's not the usual dynamic
I don't
that
have
we think
power
about.
though.
Yeah, it is. But it is more of it clashes with her directive, and that's what makes it interesting.
Exactly.
It also creates character tension between the two, because there is this sort of weird finagled father-daughter relationship because of this, and she's like, listen, no, this punk needs to bite it. I understand you helped me with those legs, but do you realize what kind of harm this person does?
Mm-hmm.
And it's fuel for tension, and so long as you're good with it,
I like
let's
it.
go. Okay, cool. The next one, shall we do her? Are we finished with that? Where?
Yep.
Okay, onto her eyes. These are one of my favorite things. Her eyes, she screwed somebody over to get.
Okay.
And I described this initially as she accidentally shot somebody and was like, fuck it, I'm pilfering the eyes. But it'll be something along those lines. So we mentioned earlier that Syracuse is after very nice looking people. And of course, with Angel, that's been a lot of her goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, to boot the fact that she's, pretty good looking, she shot somebody from Syracuse to get those eyes.
Ooh.
Love it.
Like you shot a self to get it?
Something like that. She shot somebody, yeah, she shot a self 2.0 not to get these eyes. That was like her target, and she's like, oh, hey, sick, cyber eyes. Oh yeah.
And I think, what happened was that whoever it was that you shot was probably what brought attention to you.
And they're just like, oh, this one looks pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
And now she is being super fucking hunted by Syracuse. And this is kind of what turned her into a more hardcore of a killer. Just like, she used to just carry a rifle everywhere. That was fine, but the sword and the pistol are because there are people out there who literally want her face.
Mm-hmm.
And it scares the fuck out of her because she worked hard to get to this point, and she is not letting anybody ruin that.
Right.
I especially feel with that angle of Syracuse, that makes her very afraid, but also willing to fight like a junkyard dog.
Love it. Done.
Nice.
All right, and finally,
the arm. I'm going to have fun drawing this, but this is an augmented strength right arm for holding that big old fucking gun. And now I don't have any ideas for this one.
well, we said so. For owned and hunted is no
saver.
longer going to be a thing. So right now we're looking at a scrimped and saved.
We're looking for a saver. So this is
Right.
a goofed arm she got from somebody.
So to be more specific, you can go unreliable, which means sometimes it doesn't work. You could go
yikes.
substandard. It works, but not as well as it should. So I might lower your bonus by a little bit. Hardware decay. It works now, but it's just a matter of time until it doesn't. Or damaging. Sometimes it hurts like hell, and it'll eventually do permanent nerve damage.
Oh my god. Damaging's tempting because this is like cyberware is her thing too.
Is that like an experience feedback loop for you?
I would say I don't think so.
It would be something like something that I've toyed with her in my brain is that like when she goes like that aforementioned kind of battle rage, that is kind of the she describes it as glitching the fuck out, in that her brain is sending weird signals to the cyberware, which then sends weird signals back to the brain, and it becomes this weird loop, and it's just this mess upstairs that she kind of just has to get out of her system.
Okay.
I think the question is like every time that the cyber arm damages you, do you mark experience because you're masochistic? And see, that's one of those questions that I'm not fully certain about. It's one of those things I'm not fully certain about in the Sprawl. Is there a limit to how many times you can get the experience from that? Because it's like that's
it's
OP.
interesting.
Yeah.
So, if I may,
maybe the threshold for it marking experience is a little bit bigger than just like maybe it's 2 harm caused by the dang arm. I want to say maybe that this harm is done by pushing it too hard. This is not a I feel like this is not like her eyes and her legs were like combat grade. This Asus Prowler arm is mostly for show. This is not a combat arm. This is very janky modification for strength. So I don't know how you want to work with this and how much you want to like plug me with this and like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really. For me to use that tag, it would have to be one of those like you rolled poorly kind of deals, and then I get to be like, oh, that's right, you have damaging. You also take a harm. Yeah, and
it's just and I can just my.
That could kill you surprisingly quickly.
Yeah, I say go ahead and go for damaging. I mean, if that's what you're feeling, let's do it, and then we'll discuss a little more about the ramifications of what that would look like in game, because I don't want to get into too much of a back and forth about it.
Plus damaging. I'll rebroadcast that. Now she has a poorly installed Prowler. She really liked this arm. And she, like this rifle got too heavy, so she's like, "Fuck it." This was a bit of an impulse buy, we'll say.
Love it.
She's weak.
All right, so we have your cyberware settled. So, Myson, what cyberware do you have?
Okay, as a hacker, I only have the interface with data storage. It is a high capacity and it is an encrypted neural interface. Also for fluff, because I came up with that whole sim drive thing for just jumping into these drones, I was going to say it has a S-drive capability, but that's fluff. Now, I was really stuck on what to go for how I acquired it, because what made sense in what I was going to do was it was a combination of hunted and own. But as Ozzy said, we can't do that, so...
well, as in, like, let's try not to do too much hunted and owned throughout the group, right?
Yeah.
So that way we can like actually make sure that they all have teeth. So in this case, tell me what your idea is, your backstory of how you got this neural interface, and then we can maybe put contextualizing on it.
So I want to let some of it play out as like semi-surprises. Place, so I'm going to be a little vague about it, but he came from a legitimate background originally, and something happened significantly. It involved Syracuse, and now he's trying to bring Syracuse down. So I think after thinking long and hard, if I had to pick between the two, I'm probably going to go with even though hunted makes more sense in a lot of various areas, like me trying to steal information and screw Syracuse over. Owned makes the most sense in terms of the cyber.
But you got it from so Syracuse owns you, but you're working against them.
That might be possible. Yes.
Yikes.
Is that who you're owned? That's who you're owned by. Like they gave you this technology, and now you're turning it against them.
Something like that.
So, and somebody in Syracuse knows who you are.
things.
So, someone in Syracuse knows who you are, and they just like lord it over you.
Oh my god!
If they find out who,
you know, I'm seeing this as somebody in Syracuse pulling your chain, like there's that Drake girl.
Well, this is why I was looking for an inciting event within a job in Syracuse. And some inciting event happens, and now I'm trying to bring them down. This is where I felt deceptive and revealing came into play from directives, because somebody knows who I am, and they know I'm stealing from them.
Or
and
do
maybe
they
may or do
see
that.
here's the question. If you're going for the anonymous hacker angle, right? And let's think of your where you started and then where you're ending, and what is that middle. So if you are owned by them, as in like Syracuse installed this in you to
do my
work
job
for them. Yeah, exactly. So you are right. So then you turned against them, and now you're super anonymous. So they have files on you, but they don't necessarily know. Like maybe you went
Maybe I never left the company.
You're that's why we never see you, because you're always in the building.
I love it.
Oh my god.
I may not always be in the building.
It'd be very
Right,
difficult
but
to do
you're-
harm if you're always in the building. But
So he's an insider.
He's an inside man.
See, that's another thing. You say PvP is enabled. Tensions rising between us two, and Angel's like, I am outside your fucking window. I can see you. Talk, bitch.
Or just to fuck with you guys, I might like come in actual civilian clothes, and I might just look like a regular wage slave. See me, and I'm like, hi, I'm this. Here's the tour or something, some bullshit.
Love it.
And then when I meet with you later, it's like, I did my evaluation on you. Exactly. I know what you do, and you wouldn't know where the fuck I found you.
I love
Especially because if you're inside Syracuse, Angel is going to be so suspicious. You show up, bam.
it. So, and this has to be one of those, like, nobody knows that you're an inside man in Syracuse. And one day when that truth comes out, oh man.
How good are you maintaining that lie?
You are going to
Oh, and
You
that
are
goes
going to
really well
have
with that
one-
directive. That goes really well with that directive
Cyborg.
of like your lies about who you are when they inflict the when they fuck up the mission in some way.
And it will.
I love it.
Oh,
And that's
That's
partially
juicy.
why I
Oh my
went for.
god.
that's
That's
very
partially
juicy.
why I went for revealing.
Oh my
Yeah, I
fucking
felt
god.
they dovetailed well with each other.
All right, Geppetto, what ware did you get?
Well, I only have one piece of ware. I figured augmenting myself might be a bit too extreme. There's an aesthetic I have to maintain, you understand. So, I do have both of my forearms replaced with cyberware, but it's only, and I insist only, just so I can do work on my robots better. Unfortunately, it was a kind of model that wasn't available at Memory Gold Incorporated, so I did have to go to another company to get them installed. So Safety Net, although ACAB, did happen to have the precise item I needed to be installed. So my right arm is refitted with their particular modifications. I won't go into details; it's very boring. But it's owed, I believe. I'm not hunted. So yes, I did strike up a bit of a deal with a member from Safety Net. Fortunately, they weren't a cop, or that would be very, very emotionally complicated. But yes, I do owe somebody from Safety Net who equipped my right arm.
Okay, and tell me more about that. Like when they come up for you, like so Safety Net we know is very mob, hard-edged, dictatorial, and oppressive. So
that is the organized crime side of things is unfortunately the angle I had to push to get this installed. As I say, the specific nature of my arm, I am unfortunately not at liberty to say. It would be compromising if I did that. But yes, I did have to speak to a ne'er-do-well, as we like to say back in the motherland. He's the worst fucking person. Oh my god.
Oh, you.
He's a precious child. Yes. A ne'er-do-well to get this installed. He was relatively interested, actually, in the nature of what I do as a hobby in terms of AI liberation, and he didn't go into much detail as to why he was so interested in my personal project. But he was particularly interested in the results. He did say something along the lines of rehoming some of the people who I liberated from other corporations. And I assume it's entirely for a noble and open-hearted purpose, entirely non-violent. And we will surely be the best of friends. Yes.
Oh my god. Angel going, Geppetto, that's not what rehoming means. Oh god.
It's fine. It's fine.
No, it's not.
Well, let's send the AI to a farm upstate.
Mm-hmm.
he was just very lonely and needed somebody to play chess against, and I thought, yes, I do have somebody in my general cohort of people in the Gunpla who are good at chess. No, there are no additional questions that you need to ask. This is entirely fine. Put your hand down. Good.
What, can we give this individual a name?
Oh, yes, that would be an absolute name. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, I am not very good with my comlink. And I did happen to delete his social networking profile. I will re-add him, but I have to remember his name first. So if anybody does know the name, please do tell me. It would be very embarrassing if I forgot.
Let's see. So safety net. Let's say maybe like Rodrigo. Let's see. Rodrigo. You know, we could be like super.
I call him Rod all the time. He hates it.
Rodrigo Rod. Yeah, because he likes hot rod. No, Rodrigo Rod. What?
Zervas.
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 Also, guys,
Rod Zervas.
Did I pronounce that right? Zedvas.
Anyway, I hate to cut in, but I gotta get going now. It is now my maximum cutoff time. I cannot wait any longer. I am sad to say.
All right.
Aw. So, real quick, can we do what your job is before you leave?
I'm the
Your
hacker,
links?
of course.
Your link sorry. So in other words,
About our first job.
Yeah, or is this going to be have to be like the start of the next session? Is just like
I
let's
think it
describe the
might be
links.
better if we made that the start of the next session.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
I think maybe it would take a little while because then he can't jump in on future links and
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
make them worse.
All right. Okay.
So
well,
I hate to be that hacker and just like jack out of the internet, but guys, it has been fun. I cannot wait for episode 1. I can't.
Me either. Oh my god, I am so fucking excited.
All right.
Y'all get
So y'all have an awesome day. I'm off to host some Shadow.
Bye.
Have fun. Bye.
Be gay, do crime. Oh, he's
always be gay, do crimes.
All right. And so finally, Sinon, what cyberware did you get, sir?
So Sinon has skill wires. And let me just... So his skill wires are substandard because he scrimped and saved to get them himself. Because it was a gradual process for him inside Dynamed to realize that that entire situation was untenable. He started saving up because he said, okay, well, if I can't do this, then I'm going to be in an unfamiliar environment doing unfamiliar things, and I need to be able to do those things. So let me get skill wires to plug new skills in as needed. So he's good at talking to people, but maybe not so much at climbing through windows. So he can just slot the climbing skill, or that kind of thing. Or I don't know how to patch up my bullet wound that I got that I really didn't want to have. So I know first aid. But because he bought it himself, it just doesn't. He got it installed by a street doctor. It's just not great. Sometimes it's like, man, I really don't know how to climb very well from this. It's mostly okay, but
Okay.
The idea that you learn occasionally the wrong skill is
Suddenly it's like, I thought this was like a parkour soft. Why am I like good at underwater basket?
yeah. So I have the ability. I
Bullshit.
start with 2 skills, and I have the ability over time to purchase additional chips to learn new skills. So I started off with first aid and gymnastics. I thought those would be some useful ones, but over time could be more. We'll see what happens.
Okay. So when we think substandard, it works, but not as well as it should. So they give you +1 ongoing to the moves while assisted by that program. So then how do we want that to happen in game where it doesn't work as well as it should?
Well, I mean, I think that maybe just sometimes just have a +0 sometimes.
Okay.
Which is maybe more like leaning on unreliable. Maybe that makes more sense as a tag. If that
Where sometimes it doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, because there isn't really. If it's only a +1, well, you can't really make that plus half, which would be more sensible for stuff. So let me just change it to unreliable.
Okay, perfect.
And I will let you decide when it doesn't work.
All
Bad
right.
idea.
So let's see. Aside from all of that, really the last thing are the links. So I think that's what we're gonna wait on for next session. So links to and I think we're free to discuss this amongst ourselves privately now that we know the world and we have more to discuss.
Yeah.
The idea of the links is each one of you is going to go around and say what job you did against which corporation, and then the other players can choose whether they were part of that job or not. And for every person that helped on that job, we tick the corporation's clock upward.
Nice.
Now, the idea, though, that why you would want to do this, why you would want to be part of a job, is for each individual you would has +1 links with you, in which so like say Angel had a job against Dynamed and Sinan wanted to be a part of it. He would have +1 links with Angel. So whenever
Pops, better keep up.
Yeah, so whenever he has to roll the links attribute, which is usually to help or interfere with Angel, he gets to roll bonus here. There's a bonus to it.
But why would I ever interfere?
Why would you ever interfere?
No, don't kill that one.
Everyone is just so pure. It's fine.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to be looking at and thinking about. So definitely think about which jobs you were, like which company you really want to stick it to, how you did it, what that job was, and make it tempting enough for the other characters to join along.
Juicy missions, absolutely.
Because what this also does is it puts us right in the thick of it, where you've already embroiled yourselves in some kind of corporate drama. I mean, the Cyberware has already done that to some extent, but now it's going to get even more so because you've already done actual jobs against them, and you're in the thick of it with each other now, and that's what created this team. This team is helping each other survive the current swamp that they've placed themselves in, and it's only going to get worse. So that's going to be super exciting. So with that said, I think now is the time for outros.
Yes.
Oh boy.
As a reminder, though, the Sprawl, our next episode is going to be in 2 weeks. So that is same time. Let's see. So that's going to be May 25th. At 1 p.m. Eastern. And
God, I don't think I'm gonna laugh.
6 p.m. BST if you're from the UK like me. Yeah.
So definitely, please join us for that, because then we get to get started. Also, one thing, next week on the 18th, I will be doing a Let's Chat prior to Shattered Isles. Shattered Isles premieres at 5 p.m. So I'll be 1 hour before. I'll be there pre-show at 4 p.m. where I'm going to be designing the first job.
Ooh.
And also just discussing like what we already know about these characters and the world, and maybe filling in some of those blanks too with you guys in chat of different world elements. So
any opportunity I can take to gush about Angel, I will. I love her.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
So
I'm so looking forward to everybody getting to know Geppetto. They're a darling.
Oh god. Oh, just like
They are. Geppetto is fantastic.
Geppetto is wonderful.
Just great.
Yeah, no, I love all of these characters. I'm very excited to explore all of them. So now we got the funky music. Let's do our outros. All right, Allison, you're first.
Oh god, me first. She's putting me on the hot seat. Okay! Let's see. Places you can find me. I am live hold on, Tuesday through Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern? 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/DigitAlley. It's a pun. I love it. You can follow me on Twitter at DigitAlleyTwitch. And if you want to see some of my photography, hey, you can follow me on Instagram at transgender_transhuman. Other than that, I'll have more to plug later, but that's what I'm all about right now. I hope to see some of you there. I am loving you guys, chat.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you to Chat. Chat is badass. And it really helps when you're creating a world and you have extra stuff to crowdsource from, because the world can only be so awful. And then there's more awful to throw in. It's great. Awful in a good way. Nathan.
Hello, everybody. If you've managed to form a parasocial relationship with me over the course of this episode, you can listen to more of my work on the podcast The Talent Agency. It is a queer POC at cyberpunk and Shadowrun Anarchy Actual Play. It's great. It's wonderful. You must listen to it. It's on Podbean and iTunes. If you'd want to follow me personally, then you can follow me at WriterBlades on both Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to talk to me about tabletop RPG stuff, you'll want to use my actual podcast Twitter. That is at PhantomArtsEnt, ENT. I'll see you all next time.
Very nice. And finally, Palmer.
I have been Palmer, and you can find my show Radio Free Detroit on Podbean. I'm going to toss a link in the chat there for everybody. If you enjoy Shadowrun and in-character stuff and philosophy and Oz talking like a troll, then you will enjoy my podcast.
Yep, that's right. I am the voice of that podcast. I'm Ziggy, the troll Shadowrunner philosopher.
Yeah.
Gotta love that guy. Gotta love that Ziggy.
Gotta love Ziggy. I love Ziggy. I love portraying him. So so I'm the voice of Ziggy on Radio Free Detroit. I'm also the voice of Augustus on Tales from the Stuffer Shack, the Shadowrun Anarchy actual play on Violent Life that mixes Shadowrun with the movie Clerks. And yeah, it's good stuff. And then I'm also the game master of Join the Anarchy, which is on every other Monday here on the Shadowcasters Network, where we play Shadowrun Anarchy as well. So yeah,
So fun.
So much fun. That's actually how we even met Palmer. So you know, this is how. And actually, I think Join the Anarchy is really how I met everybody. I think. No.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ali I met when I played Detroit Become Human on stream, right?
No, yeah, that was when we met. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway.
And then I somehow grew on you like a fucking parasite.
Yeah, so I love that that doing this has brought all of us together into this group, and now we're all meeting, and now we've created a hell of a world, a hell of an arc sprawl, and I'm excited to explore it with you guys and see who survives.
Oh, we made it, lads. I'm going to die immediately. Oh God.
So again, thank you to everybody, and we'll see you in I'll see you in 1 week for Let's Chat, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for our first session of the Sprawl. And get pumped, get hyped, and wait a second, Shadowcasters Network. Make sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you come to twitch.tv/ShadowcastersNetwork. If you're watching this on Twitch and you're like, hey, I need to catch up, what happened? You can go to youtube.com/ShadowcastersNetwork. You can watch the entire video and catch up on whatever you missed. We also have a whole ton of actual plays, including, guys, this is a big deal, Shadowrun 6th edition, which has not been released to the public whatsoever. We have the exclusive actual play, and that's going to be, I believe... Right! We're so cool. I believe
so
it's...
excited!
Yes, so the next episode is actually going to be this Thursday, the 16th. And I'm also going to plug, what other shows? A Sea of Spears is going to be starting on the 19th. That's not starting, it's going to continue. That's the Game of Thrones actual play. So on finale night, you get to watch their episode. Optiverse, the variants.
Optiverse, I was just going to say.
On the 20th,
I love it.
Optiverse the Justicars, the second actual play in that universe, is going to, I know on our calendar it says the 12th, it'll actually premiere on the 26th. they've postponed. And Once Upon a Tabletop, which I'm also on, that is our game where we role-play board games, and we're continuing our legacy game of Time Stories. And
so
that
much
is
fun.
right, and that's going to be playing on the Wednesday the 22nd. So yeah, we'll have a calendar as soon as we get off. Make sure that you check that out. And if you need it, shadowcasters.network/schedule is where you can visit to see that schedule. If we are not, if our screen is not up. So anyway, all right, I've blabbed enough. Thank you, everybody. And I think we're going to raid let's raid Roll For It, because we have this huge group. Roll For It's going to be like, whoa.
We have 110 people.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Amazing.
I think that's rateable for Roll For It. So
oh my God.
let's. All right, so stay tuned. They're playing right now, actually, the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game as well. They're set in the Riverlands, whereas our game is set in Dorne. So, yeah. And Ballet, who just walked in. This is not Cyberpunk 2020. This is the Sprawl. But, which, by the way, Cyberpunk Red has been announced. That is the updated RPG for Cyberpunk.
That's like
basically,
soon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a precursor to the 2077 video game. So get pumped and excited.
Hey,
Nice.
Yeah, that's going to be releasing at Gen Con.
that's pretty sick. That's
It's
pretty
sick.
awesome.
Lots of really good cyberpunk stuff. So anyway, have a great night, everybody. Thanks for coming to the Sprawl. See you.
Bye.
You.
And be your hearts.
Bye.